Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the ReelTok Podcast, episode 41. I am joined alongside my beautiful co-hosts, Tyler and Seth. We do have the absence of Cam again this week. He's got another wedding. But to Cam, happy Father's Day. I hope you're enjoying your first Father's Day with Emma and Bailey. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Of course, we are recording this on Father's Day, so it might sound weird when you hear it tomorrow, but whatever. As always, we have dropped our merch. The support has been fucking unbelievable. You guys have been tweeting at us like crazy, telling us that, you know, the quality is great, the designs are great, your fits are devious as we want to see. So we're really happy with the success of the first what are we, 3 weeks into merch now. So we're really happy with what the success is looking like there. We're really happy that you guys are supporting us. We also obviously are on Patreon. We've updated our tiers recently. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out. We've made the tiers a little more advantageous to you guys, a little more appealing if you're not a patron yet to check them out. We are also all over social media, as always, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a follow and a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple. All that support obviously helps us grow like crazy, which is our goal right now, just to get this podcast out to as many eyes and ears as possible. We got a pretty packed episode for you today. We are expecting this to be one of our longest episodes. This was a crazy week of new releases, and we all kind of grinded to see as many of them as possible. We got our Flash review, Past Lives, Extraction 2, Elemental, The Blackening. We'll run through Black Mirror Season 6 very quickly. We also got some news. Netflix's TUDUM dropped. I was a bit underwhelmed by TUDUM, but there are still some pretty big highlights that we want to talk about. And of course, just our normal movie news. And then we are wrapping up with a draft of movies that give us I don't even know how to title this draft. Movies that give us a perspective on life, movies that make us question our purpose in life, shit like that. When we get to the draft and you see what movies we draft, you'll kind of get a better understanding of what the idea of the draft was. But let's get into the episode. Gentlemen, Seth, I want to start with you. Obviously, you saw Hans Zimmer, and I'm really fucking jealous. You still haven't sent me a video. How was the concert? How was the rest of your week?
Yeah, man, just a really busy week.
You were back and forth a ton from London this week.
Yeah, huh? Wednesday went to London. Went to go and see The Flash in IMAX, which was interesting, and then went to an after party. And usually, like these after parties with the early screen, well, not early screens for that, but screen stuff, they don't really put this. They put a lot into this after party, which was great. I'm not one for going out and drinking a lot. I don't want to say I drank a lot, but it was nice to see everyone. Met a few people who I'm familiar with online and stuff like that. Met some other TikTokers, which was great. Met loads of people. It was quite overwhelming, and yeah, that was a really good night. Really good night. I enjoyed that a lot. Then Thursday went home. Friday went back to Manchester. Went to see Hans Zimmer, which was just fantastic. It was better than I expected it to. It was so good, and I think he did all of his big ones. Like,
does he go in order? Like, does he play like 3 songs from Dune, 3 songs from Batman, or does he shuffle around? So we'll go from like Dune to Pirates to Dune to Batman to Lion King.
He did a couple of mixes. Okay. The majority of the time were in order. So I think he started with Wonder Woman, actually, interesting enough, which I hadn't seen, so I don't fucking know that one. Most of the big ones were in the second half. There was like 2 halves of it, whatever. He did like the Dark Knight, he did Interstellar, he did Dune, he did Inception, he did Gladiator and Pirates of the Caribbean were in the first half, and they were just unbelievable. My favorite by far was either Dune or Time. He actually finished off, and everyone was like, I was a bit disappointed because he didn't do Time, and then he came back 5 minutes later and did Time, and I was like, okay. He's
got to do Time.
Yeah, he knew everyone was waiting for Time.
If I went to a Hans Zimmer concert and he didn't play Time, I would request a refund immediately.
Yeah. Honestly, the band is just such an amazing experience, and he really makes it very, very enjoyable, and he has like a really good personality as well. But Dune was just What's the main one called? Is it Paul's Dream or something like that?
Yeah. Paul's Dream or Armada, I feel it would be the two that I play.
I was watching it and I felt like I was looking at myself. I was just floating.
Is there like a background that like plays clips from the movie while he plays the music?
Not really. There was a cut. I think I had that for Top Gun actually. Maverick.
Okay. Oh, I
forgot. Not most of the time. He would be speaking in the middle of the two and then introducing his bandmates and saying, "This is the one who sung Gladiator." Okay. And then they'd move on to Gladiator. He'd like transition. He'd say what he was going to do. And he did like Dunkirk.
What did he open with?
So he opened with Wonder Woman, I think.
Okay. Interesting. That's an interesting opening track.
I think he might have done a bit of Blade Runner, if I'm not mistaken. And then he did Wonder Woman, but most of the huge ones were in the second half. Like The Dark Knight was crazy, man.
I believe it.
Like it was crazy, and just Dune was just, oh my god, it was. And Anna loved it as well, which was nice.
I'm so jealous. I'm so annoyed he doesn't tour in the United States.
Yeah, I didn't know that, to be honest.
Like I think even if he like he lives in New York. What?
Well, he lives in LA. I thought he'd go around like US.
Yeah. I mean, even if he doesn't play in New York, if he played in like Chicago or LA, I would fly for sure. Without a doubt.
It wasn't even that expensive, compared to the other concerts and stuff like that. It wasn't that bad.
That's very
it was packed, like full house, crazy. Everyone went mad for him.
Oh yeah, that's the greatest composer of all time.
It was just one of the best nights I've had in years. And then on Saturday, went back up to London. Kind of went around Camden again, around the markets again, like I did a few weeks ago. We went to see my first ever West End show, so I went to see Les Mis.
How was that?
It was good. Like, it was really, really good. I will admit, the last 20 minutes, I was a bit falling asleep because I had, like, no sleep. But I was told that Les Mis is it's one of the longer shows. It's like 2 hours 40, which is quite long.
That's brutal.
Yeah. But the main songs...
Yeah,
the mains, they were great. Like, they were really good, and the overall, it's one of the best ones of the West End. That was actually really, really interesting. And then last night I tried to watch UFC. I stayed up to 1 a.m, and I was like, if you're not watching, if you listen to the audio right now, I'm closing my eyes. I was just fucked. Went to see last night, woke up this morning, watched UFC, watched Extraction 2, which we'll go over, and obviously watched Flash, which I'll mention as well. But yeah, really, really busy week, and I feel just dead. But it's been a great week. Definitely.
And you got to wrap up your week with probably the longest ReelTok episode we're gonna record.
Yeah, that's fine. I like doing ReelTok. Who cares?
Who doesn't, man? Tyler, how was your week?
It's been a good week. It was my first week at the new job. So my last job that I had, like, I was so bored all the time. Like, I had barely any work, but I would have to go into the office every day. So I'd have to drive like an hour there, an hour back, and then I just sit at my desk and twiddle my thumbs for most of the day. Whereas this, I don't have to drive anymore, which is super nice because it's remote, but much more busy. Like, it's packed. So honestly, like, I feel like I have like less free time almost with this job, which doesn't make sense because I have 2 hours less of like my day wasted from driving, and I'm at home instead of in the office. But at least the first week's been hectic, just pretty much packed with meetings and packed with learning the new team and learning the new stuff I'm doing. So been pretty stressful, but in a good way. I like my team and it's fun. So solid first week of work. And other than that, just been doing stuff around the house, working on random stuff here and there, and seeing movies. Kind of the same old. Pretty standard personal life week, but big week of like career-wise stuff. So yeah, no complaints. Excited to do this ReelTok and discuss with the boys on this Father's Day.
All the movies we had to see this week.
Yeah, for real.
My week was fine. Same, I guess, as Tyler. Pretty standard personal week. I didn't really do much. I did, believe it or not, when I saw on Thursday Elemental and the Blackening back to back, that was only my second double feature ever.
I've only done one.
Ever. Wow.
Yeah, well, I feel like Tyler does a triple feature once a week, so I feel like I'm so
he's on the quad. George, he's on the quad.
The quad was a beast, but yeah, double features are like very standard for me. Double features.
Yeah, the double feature was nice. I watched the Blackening first, and then I had like 45 minutes until Elemental, so I just walked around Times Square a little bit, which is just a horrific idea. But yeah, just so ass, man. Times Square. Seth, you would hate Times Square.
Well, I don't like walking around Leicester Square, which is probably a smaller version of Times
Bro,
Square.
so packed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's misery. But yeah, my week was pretty standard. Just another week of work. I'm like almost 3 months into the new job, so I'm pretty settled. But work is still a bit stressful. But watched a lot of movies this week that we're going to talk about. Went home Friday night. Yesterday had a little Father's Day barbecue at Victoria's house, which was very nice. And then I came back to the city last night, and now we're here recording ReelTok. So let's get into it, because like I said, we got 6 things to review. We're going to go through The Flash. We're going to go through Past Lives. We're going to go through Extraction 2, Elemental, The Blackening, and then we will touch on Black Mirror Season 6 a little, maybe not briefly, but not probably as in depth as we're going to go into like The Flash and Past Lives. So let's start with the biggest release of the week, and that was The Flash. Andy Muschietti's DCU, we'll call it reboot film. This is officially, I think, the last. I always mix this up, and I wish Cam were here because I know he's more in tune with like what James Gunn says on Twitter. But either The Flash or Blue Beetle is the official final movie of like the DCEU. I'm pretty sure it's The Flash, and Blue Beetle is going to be the first movie of the DCU. So
this is Aquaman 2 Erasure.
Yeah, this is the Aquaman 2 Erasure. So let's just get into The Flash. I will start with Seth. He was the lowest on it from all of us. I believe he gave it a 2.5. Cam and I both gave it a 4, and Tyler went with a 3. So we'll start with Seth. Seth, give us your just quick non-spoiler thoughts before we get into the spoiler section of the review.
Yeah, so I didn't hate it. I think it was interesting. I don't think it was a necessarily bad film. I think it had aspects that were good, but I also think it had aspects for me that I didn't like at all. I think The Flash struggles tonally, and I think it struggles to maintain a consistent tone throughout the emotional and comedic scenes. I will say some of the comedy actually worked for me, which is surprising. Ezra Miller is obviously, as we know, not a great person. I think we have to kind of say that, but they did do a pretty okay job as the Flash. I thought they were pretty good. As the Flashpoint paradox, I don't really know much about it. I haven't seen the Flash anything before. I haven't seen the show or the. Is there a really good animated film?
Very good animated film, yes.
Okay, yeah. I found this film to be evident that this was in a time crunch, that this was delayed. We speak about the elephant in the room. The effects were terrible for the most part, and Andy Muschietti can say that they were deliberate all he wants. They weren't.
That was such a funny comment of him to make.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy.
If he had said that like months before the movie was released, I would have been like, okay, maybe.
It'd still be a weird.
It would still be weird, but the fact that he said it like after Twitter exploded with like shitty CGI comments just makes it so, because he's acknowledging that the CGI is shitty, and he's trying to give us like the worst excuse possible as to why it was shitty.
Yeah, I didn't really. So the cameos are also one that's been going around Twitter as very controversial. Obviously, they used deceased actors. It's a weird one. I've said my opinion on cameos before. I do think cameos kind of, for me, and I know why people like cameos, and that's perfectly fine. Like, for example, I quite like Tobey Maguire in No Way Home. But it kind of gets to the point where I just become so tired of them, because a film will use the excuse of cameos to be lazy with the writing, just so they can get the viewers to be surprised by a cameo of a character they liked in the past, such as well, I won't go into yet, because I think that
good catch.
Yeah, that was
great catch.
I just think that they use them as an excuse to be kind of lazy. I don't think. I obviously we'll go into this. We're going to suppose. I don't think the ending was just not good for me anyway. I know people like the ending, but I just didn't think it may have made any sense. And I just think it was overall a pretty lazy and underwhelming project. However, that's not to say there weren't good points. I think it was quite funny. The writers who obviously wrote Game Night and Dungeons and Dragons comedy, that comedy is going to work for me. It just will, because I thought Game Night was hilarious, or Dungeons and Dragons was hilarious, and I think this is hilarious. But I thought they're clearly skilled comedic writers, and you can tell that with some of the witty dialogue and screenplay. I thought some of the sequences were cool, with Ben Affleck's Batman. Of my first experience with Ben Affleck's Batman, I haven't seen any of the films. I thought he was quite cool. I think most of it we kind of have to go into spoilers because I want to say stuff about the cameo, stuff about the ending, but I'll kind of I'm like down the middle. I didn't hate it, didn't like it, was just down the middle.
Tyler, spoiler-free thoughts?
Yeah, I'm at a 3-star on this, and this is a tough movie for me to rate because there's a lot I really didn't like about it. The CGI I thought was just like unacceptably bad, and I get what Andy Muschietti's like trying to say, because I feel like what he's thinking is when everyone was complaining about the CGI being bad, and he's like, oh, it's from the Flash's perspective. I feel like he was thinking we only were complaining about when he was in that, like circular area where you see all the different universes, which like I get that, like that didn't bother me, but I'm like talking like all the fight sequences, like all the super speed, like everything, the CGI looked
the
bad.
End sequence for me.
Well, the whole first act I really didn't like either. The whole, everything that goes on in the first act, I just was like, it wasn't pulling me into the movie whatsoever. But, Seth already said the caveat, Ezra Miller is not a great person, but they really did do great. Like, I truly have no issues with their performance. That they had to carry the movie. For most of it, it was Ezra Miller carrying this movie. The trailers and all the discussion before it would make you think, and all the posters and promotional material make you think Batman is like just as big as a part of this as the Flash, which Batman's big in this, but I've seen the Flashpoint Paradox like George has, so obviously that's like integral to that story. But I think the Flash this was a true Flash movie, in my opinion. I feel like that there was so much about the family aspect. The two Ezra Millers, that was like a whole like hour of the movie was just them working together. And yeah, I don't know. I really thought they did a great job, and I was truly surprised by how much I liked their performance, because I really liked them in the Stanford Prison Experiment. Didn't love their performance in Percy being a Wallflower. Like my least favorite part of the movie is their performance.
The Stanford Prison Experiment.
Yeah, great movie.
I don't remember as a movie.
I think you would like that movie a great deal, if I'm being honest.
No, I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're like the main villain, or like the main prison guard that.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
But the family message really worked for me here. The Sasha Kaye I thought was super wasted. I just didn't think we got much of her at all, and what we did get of her was super thinly written. And based on the promotional material, I thought we would have got a lot more of her. Michael Keaton was fine. I think a lot of people really, really loved Michael Keaton's, Batman in 1989, and the Batman Returns was his second one, right? So I think there's a lot of nostalgia.
I've never heard your thoughts on the. Do you like the original? Not the original, but the
1989
Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah,
I really like 1989. Didn't love Batman Returns. But yeah, I thought he was fine. He didn't like blow me away or anything, but. This is just a movie you could tell was just picked and prodded throughout the entire production process. You can see evidence throughout where it was picked apart. There's so many moments, especially in the first act, where especially Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman would be like talking, but it was just clearly like the mouth just was either CGI moving or whatever, because it just wasn't matching up with the words he was saying. And so that looked quite bad. But yeah, the opening act didn't really work well for me. The ending I didn't love. CGI was awful, but then again, I sat there the entire 2 hours 20 minutes, and I was liking my experience and had a fine time with it. I wasn't like, please end this already. I was having a good time, and as much as I hate to say it, I think a lot of that has to do with just the ability Ezra Miller had to carry this movie. So I'm at a 3 out of 5. I'm very conflicted because there's so much I hate and there's a lot I really liked, but I kind of landed somewhat in the middle.
Yeah, I'm a little higher than both of you. I went with 4 out of 5 stars, and that didn't go up or down after my second viewing, which I was a bit surprised about. Honestly, I really expected it to move in.
I'm intrigued to know what obviously you can go what the difference was.
Yeah. So for you guys, everyone listening, the reason Seth asks that is because I had seen a cut of The Flash like a month ago or 3 weeks ago. That wasn't the official cut. Before that movie played, there was a video from Andy Muschietti that basically said, this is not the final version that audiences will see on June 16th. So immediately I kind of like reserved like fully rating this movie. I gave it a 4 stars because that's how I felt walking out of the theater, but I truly expected it to go up or down when I had seen the final cut. There was essentially no difference between the final cut and what I had previously seen. There was one difference. I'm sure there were some small CGI changes here and there, but I did not notice them, so they didn't really affect my viewing experience. When we get into spoilers, I'll tell you what the one scene that was added into the second time I saw it. But again, that one scene did not change my experience with the movie. Did it make it better or worse? But yeah, the glaring issue is the CGI for me, particularly that baby scene. I thought that was a miserable watch. I like the idea of it. I feel like every superhero movie has like that intro where they're like fighting a villain that has just nothing to do with like the overall plot of the movie. It's just introduce the characters, introduce the setting, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. It was a very interesting decision to make him do something as crazy as save a bunch of falling babies from a building. And it just didn't work for me. I thought it was definitely funny in showing like how he needs all these calories to like operate the Speed Force and slow down time and move faster. I thought that was like a cool little addition to that scene. But yeah, the CGI is the glaring issue. And there were definitely a lot of moments that kind of removed me from the scene. And a lot of people are like in defense of Andy Muschietti. They're like, yeah, well, if that's true that the CGI sucks because you're seeing it from Flash's perspective, then it's like, okay, so why didn't the CGI suck in the Speed Force in like Zack Snyder's Justice League? Because I think it looks fairly decent in like the go back in time scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think Zack Snyder pulled that off pretty well. But yeah, I think this movie also just has a lot of fantastic character moments. And I hate to be that guy when talking about it, but like, I truly think if you guys had like a little more experience with Flash graphic novels and Flashpoint Paradox stories, I think you would have enjoyed this a little bit more, because I do think this movie does a lot right in that sense. And there were just some fantastic character moments between the two Barrys, between Barry and Keaton's Bruce Wayne that I just absolutely loved. I do agree Supergirl was underused like crazy, because I do think she was one of the best parts of this movie. But yeah, overall, I went with a 4 out of 5. The CGI didn't remove me as much as it seems to have removed everyone else, strictly because I could appreciate how daunting of a task it is to translate the Flashpoint Paradox into live action. And I think they upheld a decent story that kept me engaged throughout. And yeah, we'll go into the cameos. Didn't much care for those at all. And I kind of think they're a little disrespectful, for being honest. But yeah, I went with a 4 out of 5. I'll wrap up my non-spoiler talk there, because we will get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Flash yet and you don't want it to be spoiled, I don't know, skip ahead like 20 minutes or something, maybe a little.
The timestamps are in the description as always, so you'll know exactly where to jump ahead.
Timestamps in the description as always. Shout out to the best producer on the planet. So let's just get into it. We'll start right there with the cameos. And again, please just skip ahead. I'm literally about to spoil the fuck out of the cameos. So goodbye. So we'll start with the cameos, obviously, because that's one thing that all three of us mentioned. The Christopher Reeves cameo was brutally disrespectful. And it's one of those things where, I don't know if you guys remember in Rogue One, where they had Grand Moff Tarkin, and that wasn't like him. That was basically a body double, and they like overlaid CGI to make it look like him. And I think that was done in a very respectful way, because it looked like him, it sounded like him, it acted like him. This shot of Christopher Reeves, when I saw this originally in the uncut, like in the non-final version of The Flash that I saw, I truly thought that was going to be like a part of the CGI that they would enhance. So when I saw it again with the official cut of the film, I was stunned that they left that as glaringly horrific in the movie. And then obviously we also got Nick Cage, we got the OG Flash, we got a couple
Matt
of
Reeves as well.
Batmans. Yes, exactly.
Was one of the big like controversial ones, I think.
Yep. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I can see it, like you're trying to show the multiverses coming together, so why not just show all the other versions of these characters? But it was just done in such like it felt very rushed. It felt like they had made this scene of all of like those spherical multiverses coming together, and then they watched this scene back, and it felt like they were like, oh, well, what can we do to just make this scene like a tiny bit more exciting for the audience members? Okay, let's slap Nick Cage here. Let's slap Christopher Reeves here, blah, blah, blah. So I freaked out over Nick Cage. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I didn't. I thought that was.
I didn't
cool,
know he
actually.
ever played Superman. That was something I was just like.
He didn't. He never
didn't.
played Superman.
Yeah.
Tim Burton was going to make a Superman movie. So there's like,
Gotcha.
if you could look it up on YouTube. There's
He
like,
never actually played him.
yeah, there's like test screenings of Nick Cage in a Superman suit, and that's it. Like it was never a movie or anything. It was just a concept that just never followed through.
Okay, that's kind of a
so
fun cameo then. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought that was a very cool cameo, but like the Christopher Reeves cameo just felt disrespectful in my mind. Seth, I'll turn it over to you. I know you're not the biggest on cameos, and I will agree with you. I think the more cameos we get in these movies, the less like appealing and cheer worthy they're going to be going forward. Like I think Andrew and Toby in No Way Home was great because at that point we were never like riddled with cameos left and right. So it was super cool, obviously, seeing, all three of our Spider-Men from different universes coming together. But now we're just oversaturating the cameos and they're kind of like losing their appeal.
Yeah. I think I said Matt Reeves before. That's not, I meant George Reeves.
George Reeves, yes.
Who was
I didn't catch that either.
Yeah. Who was the, I can't remember where he came up now. Obviously, he had a cameo in it.
Yeah, I was confused on that. I just let it go. I was like, wait, the director of the Batman was in this?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I missed it.
Like, there's so many Reeves, man. Jesus.
Chunk, yeah.
So yeah, George Reeves. There's a lot of like stories about him. So obviously, George Reeves allegedly killed himself after playing the Batman in the late 50s. I believe.
Oh no, we're losing Seth a bit.
We're losing Seth.
Due to his. Bear with.
All right, I think you're back. Give it another.
Yeah,
go.
you're good.
Sorry, I had to just apparently. Wait, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My internet's went off. So what was I saying?
George Reeves apparently killed himself after playing Batman.
Reeves. No shit, George Reeves. Okay, yeah. Okay. So many Reeves.
A chunk.
George Reeves.
George Reeves.
So yeah, George Reeves apparently allegedly killed himself after playing Superman due to his inability to find work and his career trajectory. However, there's a lot of skeptics about that. There's a lot of different stories, scenarios, whatever, and a lot of people find that disrespectful, which I completely understand. I do think there is a disrespectful use of cameos, and it's just playing this up to show a surprise for the viewer and to kind of, I don't know, man. I just don't like them. I do think the Nicolas Cage one is kind of fun.
He's cutting out for you too, right?
Yeah, it's starting to cut out again.
Like stupid, it's Nicolas Cage. What's not to like there? But in time,
Seth, you're cutting out. Like, oh,
all right, he's leaving. I'm guessing he's gonna come and rejoin. But just jumping in on the cameos, like, so I don't know where I land on the Christopher Reeves one. It definitely wasn't tasteful how they did it, but I'll reserve my judgment for the disrespectful aspect because I don't know what happened behind the scenes with Warner Brothers. Like, did they go to his family and they gave the okay and they got like a royalty check from it and they were like, yeah, this is like acceptable. If they did that, then like, yeah, I didn't think it was tasteful, but at least like they went to the family and like got approval. So I don't know where it landed. Like for Fast and Furious users. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if the Fast and Furious brings out like Paul Walker, I'm giving that movie a half star.
Well, like they did for Fast 7 after he died, but that's because they used his brother as the body double. That's because
they used his brother.
family.
Yeah. The only reason I'm throwing out the word disrespectful is because, like, that's Christopher Reeves. People argue him to be the best Superman of all time. And that's a super plausible argument. I put Henry Cavill above him, but like, he's one of the most iconic figures in superhero media that we've ever seen. And you're bringing him back to unfinished CGI, and it just felt like it was there just for like a crowd cheer-worthy moment. Like, at least buckle up the CGI a little bit. I don't know. It just felt so out of place. It truly felt like they finished the entire movie and they were like, where the fuck can we just stick Christopher Reeves? Like, it doesn't matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter if he says nothing. Where can we just throw him? And like, this is the return, like I said, of one of the most iconic figures in superhero media. Like, some people hold him as highly as they hold Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine or Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. Like, he's up there with the greats of castings. So like to bring him back after decades in like this fashion just felt so out of touch, and it just felt like, again, disrespectful. I don't know. That's just how I see it. Like that was the one cameo that I did not freak out over just because of how poor it looked and like how in bad taste it felt.
No, yeah, I totally agree, and I can totally see why it's so disrespectful, and I get why everyone got upset about it. Like, pretty lame that everyone like was tweeting it like insanely amount, like it was like just everywhere over Twitter, like before the movie came out. But I get it. They're like, if you're gonna be disrespectful, we'll be disrespectful to your movie. Like, I can kind of slide with that. But yeah, do you want to jump into the other cameos, or do you have anything else about Chris Reeves and George Reeves?
No, I'm done with Chris Reeves. So the one, just to bring it up, just because we were just talking about it. So the one scene that that wasn't in the original cut that I saw, that was in the second cut. So in the original cut, when Barry, at the very end of the movie, Barry's on the phone with Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's car pulls up, and you see Bruce Wayne's foot, and you don't see who it is. All you see is it cuts back to Barry, and Barry says, "Who the fuck are you?" But we don't see who it is. And then in the final cut that I watched, obviously it's George Clooney, which again, like I never loved George Clooney as Batman. I think he does a very fine job as Batman. I think he does a great job as Bruce Wayne. So like that's another cameo I didn't freak out over. The only reason I like wasn't caught off guard, but I did think it was a cool cameo because it opens a lot of doors into like, where's the DCEU going next? Like it, because he's still not in his universe, you know, he still fucked up the timeline. Obviously the post-credit scene, he's trying to explain to Aquaman that. So the only reason I enjoyed that little cut of George Clooney is because it made my mind wander like crazy on like, where are we taking this franchise? Where are things going with how the Flash ended? And that's why I said a week or two ago, whenever I talked about The Flash, I had mentioned that this movie does kind of set up, it does feel like a soft reboot because of the way it ended. And that was even before I knew it was George Clooney. I still said, like, okay, they're hiding that man's face for a reason. It's not Ben Affleck. So, yeah, it was cool. I did for a second think that that would be like the big announcement on who the Batman is going to be in Brave and the Bold. Which is why the addition of George Clooney just adds so many layers of questioning to like, where the fuck are we going with this? I don't know how you felt about the George Clooney cameo. I don't know if there's any specific topics we want to talk about with The Flash. Otherwise, we'll just kind of keep running through the big moments.
No, yeah. So welcome back, Seth. So
Welcome back.
George Clooney, the thing that pisses me off about his cameo is that he's like fully white hair and white beard at this point, just keeps getting older, but he still looks so damn good. And I was like, God damn it, he looks so freaking handsome. And you're like, how
still recording?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, you're
like,
good.
It's like, how long can you just be like a good looking man? Like I was just like, God damn. But the thing is, like, I don't even know. Like I didn't feel that like closure of like that this is resetting the universe. I feel like if you're gonna pick up the story here, like there's still an Ezra Miller, Barry Allen floating in a universe somewhere out there. So the fact, like, if you're going to recast Ezra Miller, don't really know how this movie sets you up for that. And also, I would assume, like, when people were saying this is going to reset the DC universe, that it was going to be, like, the end of this movie was going to be, like, him just breaking the multiverse and everything just, like, shatters and just kind of, like, everything goes to scratch or something, which then, again, you need to pick up the pieces there, too. But I feel like at this point, we just know that Ezra Miller is in George Clooney's Batman universe now, so none of the other Justice League that we know and love are with him. But like, I don't know, like I feel like, or Aquaman. So Aquaman's there, but it's George Clooney.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
It feels like a weird way. Yeah,
it's very interesting because like to go the route of recasting Ezra, like it would be understandable because this movie clearly establishes that like every multiversal Barry Allen or Bruce Wayne doesn't look the exact same. Obviously, you have Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, George Clooney. They're not the same looking person. So I don't know. Maybe down the line, there's a future where another Barry Allen, not Ezra Miller, fucks up his timeline and ends up in James Gunn's DC universe. So I don't know. I've been like running through the possibilities in my head ever since I saw this movie. That's why I really do like that ending of bringing George Clooney in. Not because I like the George Clooney cameo, but just because it opens so many doors and so many questions. And it's like, it's making me excited at like, okay, where are we going here? Like, how is this going to play into each other?
Right. And like,
have we spoken about the ending yet?
That's what we're talking about, right? Well, we're talking about
That's
just
what we're
like the
talking
George Clooney ending and that coming in.
Yeah.
But
let's go.
I was just gonna say, so we knew, I don't know, there was only two possibilities for that Batman could be, because everyone pre Michael Keaton is just simply too old. They couldn't have them be in there. And then
it was never going to be Christian Bale.
Right. But like Val Kilmer, obviously we know Val Kilmer's current health state, not going to be him. But yeah, if it like, I've never ever in my life once cheered in a movie. Like I don't like trying to hold it back. It's just nothing ever's drawn me to cheer. But if it was Christian Bale, I probably would have lost my fucking
I would have lost my shit.
But
I don't think that was never going to happen.
I don't think it would have been
Christian
possible too,
Bale's-
because that would have been for sure spoiled everywhere on Twitter before the movie ever even came close to releasing. So
also, Christian Bale's been very adamant over the years that he would return as Batman Bruce Wayne only if it's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
That's the only way he will return. So I don't know, because the only reason I see a possibility in Christian Bale returning is because Christopher Nolan produced Man of Steel. So maybe down the line, if he has any producing credits on any other DCU movie, maybe he'll be like, yo, Christian, weasel your way in here, bro.
Well, and we know that Warner Brothers is like trying desperately to get him back. So that would obviously need to be
Nolan
a big thing
back.
for him to ever do anything with the DCU. They would need to be on Warner Brothers. And apparently they said he's doing they're doing post-production work for Oppenheimer from Warner Brothers a lot, and they're like paying him millions of dollars for Tenet. So they're trying to get him back. So if they get him back, then I would start to believe the maybe possibilities more.
If it's ever announced, and we're going off topic a little bit, but if it's ever announced that Christopher Nolan is doing like a Dark Knight Returns movie with an older Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne, that would be my most anticipated movie of all time.
Maybe
ever.
same, and I'm not even close to your love for the Dark Knight trilogy, but I'd still probably be
unbelievable. Oh my! I would be boned out until the release of that movie, just thinking about it, respectfully to all my listeners.
Going back to like the Flash and the cameos, so I wouldn't call the beginning with like obviously Ben Affleck and then Wonder Woman cameos, because like we've seen the Flashpoint Paradox. Yeah. We know it starts off with the Justice League saving the day, but Wonder Woman's one woman, other than just like Gal Gadot being awesome, is that she's someone I'll never get upset about a cameo for her, because every time you see her and that freaking score plays, that electric guitar riff, I'll eat it up every time. I don't care. I just love that score so much. I love that electric guitar riff. Yeah. So just throw her, like you threw her in Shazam, throw her in this. It's just like, we just need her for 2 seconds just so I can hear the da-na-na-na-na-na. That's all I want. And then I'm happy.
Yeah, no, they're not cameos, obviously, and that's one part that I just can't stand people getting upset about, because they're not. Like, if you watch the Flashpoint Paradox, the animated movie, you'll know that like the Flashpoint Paradox animated movie starts with every single member of the Justice League.
And the cameos to me.
Well, yeah,
like,
and it can't be a cameo
cameos.
if they live in that universe too. It can't be a cameo.
Yeah,
like,
they live
No Way
in that
Home. They
universe.
came from a different universe. Whereas like this is like these are people that live in that city. Like chilling.
Yeah, like they're there. Obviously, if there's like fucking crime in Gotham, we're gonna see Batman. But yeah, let's touch on the ending, because that is one of the parts of the movie that holds it back for me. This movie was definitely a Barry Allen movie, like Tyler said. Like, a lot of people are coming out of it saying, oh, it's a Batman movie. It's Michael Keaton's Batman movie. I don't see that at all. This entire movie was Barry Allen. So I understand the lack of a villainous presence, and I think that's one part of this movie that really bothers me. Obviously, there are villains. There's General Zod. There's the Dark Flash. So, like, we have two villains, but none of them feel like they're fleshed out or blah, blah, blah. They just feel like they're stand-in there just to give Barry added conflict on top of breaking the multiverse. And that's one thing that bothered me, especially when we get to that ending. Everything feels like it got resolved way too fast. From the time Barry meets face-to-face with Dark Flash with other Barry to the time where, you know, the timeline is, in quotes, fixed, it just moved way too fast for me. And it didn't feel like there was, I don't know, enough stakes, blah, blah, blah. It moved way too fast for me. And I understand the lack of a villainous presence, because this is a Barry Allen movie. This movie is more about this superhero's internal conflict as opposed to, you know, a villainous conflict. And I think they got that part of the movie very right. It felt very much like Spider-Man No Way Home, how, yeah, there are villains, but this is a Peter Parker internal struggle movie, and I think they do a good job in No Way Home at displaying that. But in The Flash, it's the villains for me. There's just nothing that I liked about any of Zod's appearances or the Dark Flash's appearances. I wanted more, and I wanted that resolution to kind of be dragged out a little bit more. It just felt very fast. Seth, I know you've been wanting to talk about the ending, so what are your thoughts on that?
Pretty much the same as you, to be honest. I just found the ending to be really rushed and very lazy. And I echo what you're saying. It's like with the villains, they're just there. Gentleman Zod and obviously Dark Flash, and he has a name. It's just there, and it's just going from one point to the other and having to try and find a focal point to conclude this film, which I don't think was done well. I think it felt like something that was delayed. It felt like something that was true. They were in a time crunch for, and yeah, like it just the final the battle sequence was just bizarre to me. It's so alien. It's so stupid. It goes from, like you said, George, nothing to something. It's so rushed, and it goes from point A to point B so quickly, just so they can resolve this conflict. That, let's be honest, I don't care about, and most people watching don't care about this conflict. It's more like George said, the internal conflict with Barry. I don't think we needed a fight sequence of this, I guess, scale, especially one that looked, in my opinion, pretty terrible most of the time. I don't think we needed it. I don't think we needed a big fight sequence. I think it was anticlimactic. I think it looked bad. And yeah, it felt rushed. And I don't think it was needed, to be honest. But that's just my point anyway.
Yeah, that's like the one thing, because I really do, and I understand all of like the criticisms, like tonally this movie maybe doesn't make sense every so often, although I think the second act of the movie absolutely nails the tone. From the time Barry meets Barry, they go to Bruce, they break out Supergirl from the prison. I think tonally the second act of this movie is fantastic. The first one is kind of all over the place, and the third one, obviously we just discussed, just feels just completely erratic. But yeah, it's a very interesting decision making on their part to kind of send them into just this open field of CGI cluster shit. And then also a little off topic, I don't know if you guys noticed the scene where Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne flies his ship into the other ship and sacrifices himself. That was in the trailer. I don't know if you guys paid attention to that.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, that was in the trailer. It's like a very split second. You see the bat ship go into the thing and explode, and you see Barry sitting there like looking up at it. So that was weird.
I didn't know that. It's fun.
But yeah, is there anything else we want to touch on? I don't want to spend too much time on The Flash just because we have 5 other things to review.
Yeah, I just have a couple more things. So again, like I thought the emotion worked really well, just because I know there's a lot of people out there that really like this movie, and it can be a little disheartening to see literally everyone on Twitter seems like just shitting on it. So if you liked it, there's nothing wrong with that, and I can see a lot of reasons why people would like it. I really did enjoy the final scene when Barry went to his mother. Like I thought the emotion worked for me there with the whole like grabbing the can of tomatoes real solemnly and softly, and she's like, "Do you need a hug?" I'm like, damn, this hitting pretty hard. Like I thought they did that well, and there's so much they did do well, but the villains were the big problem. Like I don't even know if I liked or disliked Dark Flash. I just didn't retain anything about Dark Flash. Like I feel like that all happened so fast, like that I just like by the time Dark Flash was there and gone, I was like, what even just happened? Like I was like, it kind of took me by a whirlwind. I was like, dude, I didn't absorb any of that. It just happened like in such a split second. I was like, what's even going on here? But yeah, the villains I just thought were worthless because like General Zod and all that was like dumb. Like I thought they really nerfed Superwoman. I get it. Like no matter what, like they were saying, the spaghetti, like no matter what, she has to die there. But it basically just showed that like no matter how many times they reverse it, she's gonna find some stupid way to lose a fight when she's supposed to be so badass.
Speaking of the spaghetti, by the way, that was, I don't know how you guys felt. That was such a clever way and such a simple way of describing the multiverse. And like it made sense to me. Bro, it made so much sense. It was like the most simple, easy way of describing the multiverse. And it's like, it reminded me of Endgame, where they just like try to explain time travel. And it's like, who cares? You don't need to do this. Like, time travel. We're just gonna accept it for what it is. Like the Flash could have easily been like multiverse, just whatever. It's not real. Just accept it for what it is. But I like that they took the time to like give us that very simple breakdown of the multiverse, just to help us like a little bit understand what's going on. And I don't know. While Keaton was like explaining that with the whole bowl of spaghetti, I was like, this is like really clever of them to do. I don't know how you guys felt, but I don't know. That's how I walked away from it.
My favorite point of the film, so I actually didn't like the ending very much. The scene with his mom, it just didn't work for me at all. It felt for me like something I've seen multiple times, but I definitely understand why people liked that, like Tyler and probably George. George, did you like the ending?
I liked it a little bit. I thought the emotion worked a little bit for me.
Okay. So, by the way, did you guys recognize the mum?
I didn't.
Yeah, for some reason,
that's her?
it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite point of the film was probably the second act, because I actually probably enjoyed the comedic aspects a lot more than I did the emotional aspects. And when they did meet Keaton, I like Michael Keaton's Batman. I'm not gonna, it's not really. I mean, it is a cameo, but it's something we already knew going in, obviously, from the trailers. I like Michael Keaton's Batman. I like Michael Keaton. I just thought it was kind of cool when they met him. And I quite like that scene. I quite like the whole the middle section, like George said. And I think that's where the comedy shone through and the writing shone through. But the emotional part just didn't really work for me. But I liked, the second act was kind of the most tonally structured. I think George said that as well.
George, if I'm not mistaken, in the Flashpoint Paradox, isn't like Michael Keaton's Batman, like wouldn't that have been Thomas Wayne? I swear, wasn't it like, okay.
Yeah.
Because like Bruce Wayne isn't in that multiverse in the Flashpoint Paradox, right? It's his dad, and Bruce Wayne and his mother were the ones who died in the alley instead.
Yep. Exactly.
I kind of would have wished, I was hoping they were going to go that route in this, because I feel like it would have been a cool motivation to have his son and wife die instead of like it.
When did the Flashpoint Paradox come out? Paradox?
Like 10 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah, a while ago. Seth, you should watch it, honestly. I think you would enjoy that animated movie.
I have been trying to get into, like, I want to watch what's that Batman one you always speak about? Phantasm?
Mask of the Phantasm?
Yeah.
That's in my mind the best animated Batman movie we have.
How many is there?
Dozens.
A lot.
Okay, so I won't be watching all of them now.
A chunk. But all right, we'll wrap up our Flash review here. Like we said, we got 5 more reviews to power through. It's going to be a long episode, so if you're here for the long haul, thanks for sticking around. I go a 4 out of 5 on the Flash. I believe Cam also went with a 4 out of 5.
Yep.
Tyler went with a 3 out of 5.
I'm actually dropped it without telling us.
Oh, did he? To a 3.5?
Yeah. I was looking what we all rated it last night, and he dropped it.
Cam went with a 3.5 out of 5. Tyler went with a 3, and Seth went with a 2.5. Wow, we went right down the line. 4, 3.5, 3, 2.5. That's funny. All right, let's move on to our next review, and that is Past Lives. A lot of people's most anticipated movie of the year. It's A24's newest release. Seth, did you watch Past Lives?
It's not out here yet. There's no release date yet.
So myself and Tyler saw it. Do we want to split this up, spoiler, non-spoiler, or do we just want to kind of... There's
not really any spoilers, but we'll just talk about the movie in broad strokes anyways, so...
Yeah. There's not a lot to spoil. But Tyler, you can kick it off. Give us your thoughts on Past Lives.
Yeah, so I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I texted you right after. I was like, man, I'm all the way between like a 3 out of 5 and a 5 out of 5 on this. Like I just had to digest it like right away. I couldn't figure out where I landed.
A 3 out of 5.
Like it was just a wide range. Like I didn't, because like I liked the movie, and then the final 10 minutes tied it all together, and I really loved that. So it's like, okay, where do I put this and land it? If I just kind of just liked the whole movie, but then the ending really tied it in, because it's just the ending that I really loved. But then again, like it's part of the movie and ties in everything else. So it was complex to digest. But this is way different than the trailers led me to believe, in a good way. The trailers made me think this is like a woman who was like married, and then this guy from like her past life starts messaging her, and they like meet up in New York City and like start hanging out, and it's like, it seems like almost like unfaithful and stuff. But then the movie, the way it plays out in the movie is like it's hardly even a romance. It's more drama, and it's like she's not really necessarily into the guy. It's more that guy's a representation of her past life in Korea, and her holding on to the culture that she left behind to move and immigrate to United States in New York City. So I really like that part. And also like her husband in the movie, like isn't Like they do love each other, but they kind of say like, they got married mainly for the green card. They're both successful writers in New York City. So they're kind of more like professional working partners that like do love each other, but it's not like it's a standard marriage where, they dated, they're like, feel like they're soulmates, lifelong lovers, and then get married. So it worked for me in that sense. I loved the ending, and I loved the whole depiction of In-Yun and past lives. And I thought it was just all done very well. The acting I thought was all so incredible. Like every single performance in this movie was so good. The score was quite good as well. And yeah, it was a lot to take in. I can definitely see why people give this like a 10 out of 10, because if you're an immigrant, or if you have like a friendship or a relationship that from years past that you no longer talk to them or broke for some whatever reason, and it was like a big point of your life. Like I never really had like a friend I can think of that like was best friends with and I lost, and like it impacted me. So I can see why people's personal life experiences would really impact their feeling on this movie. But I thought it was really quite well done. I didn't think like Celine Song was her directorial debut, so it was great for that. I didn't think it was like as impressive, not to knock Celine Song, but like it didn't feel like she had as much like command and control over the narrative as for After Sun for Charlotte Wells. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I definitely want to see it again, especially because I got to the theater like 3 minutes late because of freaking traffic. So I missed the like opening 2 minutes, but I messaged a couple of people on Twitter who already saw it. I'm like, please just give me like a paragraph of like what happened in the first 2 minutes, so I'm not missing anything. But I'll definitely have to rewatch, and I'm excited to rewatch because I did enjoy it. But yeah, 4.5 stars, 9.3 out of 10. Really, really, really liked it. Yeah, I just think that final 10 minutes really tied it all in super beautifully. It didn't like blow me away, the movie as a whole, but it's very quite good. And I think Seth would quite like it as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you and on the 4.5 out of 5 slide. And a big part of that was because of the ending. The movie was fantastic, but as the movie kind of rode along, I was never really like thoroughly invested into this. I think it's just culturally, I don't think this is a movie I can necessarily relate to, which is weird to say because I give like the Batman a 5 out of 5, and obviously I can't relate to that.
But I thought you were him.
Fair, I am him.
There you go.
But yeah, I think this movie is going to hit home with a lot of people who have taken that big step and emigrated somewhere outside of their home country, and they're trying to hold on to that cultural aspect of their life. I also thought and I don't even want to call it a love story, but I'll say like the love story aspect of this movie. I think it works really well. The dynamic between our main female and her husband, as well as her old friend from Korea, I think just works incredibly well. It never feels like anything is forced. The relationship between her and her past friend, it just feels natural. This movie truly felt like it wasn't even scripted, or it wasn't even a movie. It just felt like we were following these three characters through their lives, and it just felt very natural. I absolutely love that about this movie. I make the comparison to La La Land, and I think that comparison somewhat holds up, especially the ending. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I don't think this hit me emotionally as hard as I would have wanted it to. Everyone in my theater was kind of in tears by the end of it, including Sophie. But I was just kind of like, okay, like I like that ending a lot, but it did feel like, because I can't necessarily relate to any of these scenarios, what's going on between her and her husband and her past friend, maybe it just didn't hit me as much as I would have liked it to. But no, I am with Tyler. I go with a 4.5 out of 5. And a big part of that 4.5 is because of the ending. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but I really, really, really like that ending. And then one thing I also think just elevated this movie was I was at a Q&A with the filmmaker and the husband, the guy who plays the husband in the movie. So I always love that because it's very interesting to just hear how they kind of like film a scene and what the expectations are, and how the dynamic between these characters should be interpreted versus maybe how we interpret it ourselves. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I went with a 4.5 out of 5.
Have you seen the graph, the rating graph to this? It's really interesting. I rarely see this. It's like a 4.5, a 5, and a 4 are all exactly the same length.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's weird. I'm looking at that now too.
I've literally never seen this.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that because, like I said, it's like depending on your scenario, depending on how you were raised, where you were raised, what your situation is, I think this movie's going to hit home with a lot of people. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Tyler, is there anything spoilery you want to go into?
Not really, other than the ending. And
yeah, I don't want to go into.
And like, I tried to explain the movie to Riley when I got home, and this is like the type of movie, or a lot of movies kind of like this. It's so hard to explain to someone, and like if you just say like the one sentence, like tidbits of what happens, like she's like, "This sounds really corny and stupid," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's like it's hard to give it."
That's
justice.
how I felt. That's how I felt after watching After Sun. When I got home, I was home like at my parents' house the weekend I watched After Sun. So I went to see it by myself, and I came back to After Sun, and like I'm visibly like crying. Like my mom could clearly tell that I was crying in the car, and she's like, "What the hell is this movie about?" And I was like, "Just a father and a daughter on vacation."
Yeah.
And my mom and dad are like, "The fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah, I hate explaining movies to people after the people are like, "Oh, how do you like the movie?" And like if it's something like, you know, The Flash or like Element, like stuff that's like, you know, kind of blockbuster, you can explain it. But if it's like a deeper like drama, like I'm like, I don't want to do this because it's just gonna sound stupid. But like
I don't want to get into why this movie hurt me. Like,
right. The one thing that and like movies 100% never need to have flawless protagonists. Like that movies are better when they have flaws. They're not perfect. But I think a lot of people like to nitpick people and be like, oh, like that person's kind of shitty. Like I do think a lot of things our main actress does is like shitty in this movie. Like the whole bar scene rubbed me such the wrong way. Like how they just completely shut out her husband for like an hour-long conversation. And like the husband was like so like cool about like the whole like him coming. Like obviously he was a little apprehensive about it, but like so would any of us. Like someone you're married to for 12 years, and someone comes in and then like all of a sudden you're just like a nobody to them. They're just talking to this new person.
That's what that was one of the biggest topics of the Q&A that they were talking about. Basically, like this movie wanted to highlight the idea of the husband being an outsider. Like his wife has an entire past, entire friendships from Korea that he's not involved in. Like, yeah, he's married to her. They've built this life together in New York. You know, they obviously live together. But this movie, what they were trying to go for was making us understand that like he feels so ostracized from this relationship. The fact that his wife has such a rich history in Korea before she came to the United States that he's just not in tune for it.
Which I get, and I understand like what they're going for there, but still, like the fact that like if they're married, right? But if they're married 2 years, I would have bought that a little more. But like 12 years is so long to be married to someone and still have them feel like a nobody to you, kind of like that's the only part of like like based on the trailers. That's why like when they did the second like 12 years later, my jaw kind of dropped a bit. I was like, wait, that's how long they've been married. Like that's how long you're making this relationship be before like these events come into play. But yeah, like I get what they're going for, and like I said, like protagonists don't need to be flawless. They shouldn't be. It makes it more interesting when they have problems that you kind of look at and you're like, I wouldn't have done things the same. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I don't know. I would have been interesting to see if Celine Song did this as like not a directorial debut, because like I feel like this could have benefited from being longer. Like it was like an hour 40 minutes total, and I feel like a lot of it felt, because I know like Reagan, for example, on Twitter, like I was talking to her about it because she gave it like a 3 stars, and she said she didn't really buy into the romance of the movie, and I was like, that makes sense, and like I didn't really either, but I didn't really view it as much of a romance, as more of a drama to me. But then again, like from the trailers, everything they build this to be makes you think this is a romance movie. So I can totally see if you're going into that expecting this to be like mainly like a romance, which there's plenty of elements of that, like we said, but I don't know. That's not my big takeaway from it. But if you're going in looking for that, like I can totally see, like it's pretty thin in terms of like the romance between the two Korean friends, because it is pretty sparse and so much time. And I get you can be so connected and the whole concept of Inyeon. But then again, like, because they went like 12 years without talking and then talked for like a week and then went 12 years again. So it's like, again, I just don't have that personal experience with a friend like that. So I don't know what it's like to have that kind of connection with someone from a previous life in terms of like before immigrating somewhere. So it's just something where that's why it's a 4.5 stars, which I still really liked, but not necessarily that 5 out of 5 After Sun level, like 10 out of 10 type movie, because I just couldn't fully connect or relate because I just didn't really understand it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I don't think the romance was ever meant to be the focal point of this movie. I think it was just the idea that she was being reminded of this entire past life she had in Korea and how maybe she lost that over the years, and the reemergence of this old friend is kind of just bringing her back and maybe making her I don't want to say regret the move to the United States of America, but maybe look down on it a little, differently now that she's kind of built a life in New York, but is also now being reminded of this past life that she had in Korea with this one friend of hers that, still lives that life. And she could kind of see the cultural differences that she kind of went through being in the United States for almost 24 years. But yeah, we could wrap that up there. The two of us went with a
Sounds
4.5. I'm excited for you two to watch it, honestly. I do think.
Is that made up or is that like actually?
Yeah. No, I just
horrendous.
Okay, well, to be fair, that's not as bad as I was expecting for A24. Like,
yeah, wasn't Pearl like a year?
I've still not seen Pearl. It's still you still can't like rent it on streaming. It was like 7 months, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Quick side note about A24. They do piss me off because they're just simply not an indie studio anymore. They were just valued recently at $2.5 billion. So the fact that they keep doing all these such limited releases is such horseshit that I feel like they do on purpose to drum up the indie buzz and be like, oh, limited release, and then we'll expand. It's like, you're literally a multi-billion-dollar company now. Like, you produced Oscar winners that were $100 million plus profits. This movie for months has been said like one of the best movies of the year. My theater was packed, like absolutely packed, because they only had one freaking theater in Arizona showing it. So it's it's just like, I don't know. A24, you used to be that independent guy. Just accept that you're like a mainstay studio now. I'm off my soapbox now. I'm done.
Yeah. Give us the wide releases we deserve. We are joined by Cameron Walsh in the beautiful state of Florida. Hello, Cameron. How are you?
Hello.
Florida sucks.
Oh.
This place is
Fair. What part of
I'm
Florida
good.
are you in?
Hey, y'all. Hey, everyone. I'm back.
Okay,
Hi.
perfect timing because we're going to get into our Extraction 2 review.
No. Let me give it the flash thoughts real quick.
Oh, okay.
I joined like 10 minutes ago and y'all just chatted for 10 minutes. I was like, all right, I'll wait. Flash. All right. Real quick, Tyler, if you can like cut this into like the spoiler section of Flat, that would be great. I don't know what y'all said. I just have a couple points to make. Okay. Is that fine?
Yeah, just rattle them off. Just rattle them off.
Yeah, so the Flash, I enjoyed it. I gave it like a 74 out of 73 out of 100.
I was going to ask. I think you dropped from a 4 to a 3.5.
Yeah, so like as I thought about it, I was like, yeah, maybe I didn't enjoy that as much as, and I also enjoyed Extraction 2 more, but I didn't enjoy Extraction 2 more than Extraction, so I like it just trickled down, whatever, trickle down economics, all that jazz. So spoilers of Flash, whatever, skip ahead 5 minutes if you haven't seen it.
We're already in spoilers.
I didn't.
Just
I
go.
I don't know where he's putting this. Super weird cameos, and my only opinion on it, everyone's all up in arms about it, freaking out about the cameos. You got Christopher Reeves, you got Matt Reeves, you got
George Reeves.
I did.
My bad. Matt Reeves.
No,
we
made the same mistake.
The Batman director. You got George Reeves, Christopher Reeves. You got Nick Cage's Superman, which if you have not seen, like the Death of Superman Lives documentary, I believe is it by Kevin Smith or it's about the movie Kevin Smith was going to make. I forget. I haven't watched it in a long while. Really good documentary where Nick Cage almost played Superman, but also no one knows about that documentary for the most part. Like it's not a well-known documentary. It's not a massive thing. So why add him in? Super weird. Why not throw Brandon Routh, who was Superman? Why not throw in Ezra Miller's Flash was in it? Why not throw in Grant Gustin's Flash, who's actually like beloved by most fans? Like my only issue with the cameos, people freaked out about how disrespectful it is. I don't think it is that. I'm sure they got approval from the families and everything, and that's really all you can do at that point is like, if the families are all right with it, like, yeah, it's a cool little tidbit, sure. But my only issue is why choose these cameos that don't like really matter at this point, aside from the cameos of people that are like still playing these characters. Like obviously the Flash TV show just ended. Why not throw Grant Gustin in there? That makes zero sense to me. And also, why are we having so many Superman cameos in a Flash movie? Like I understand, like I get the point of them. And I know Seth basically said he hates cameos, whatever. I'm not necessarily on that page, but these cameos just felt like worthless. why not throw Tom Welling in there? Like, everyone loves Smallville. I just like the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths did a much better cameo fest than any of these. Like, I do not get it. Maybe they just didn't want to like do all of those same exact cameos because Ezra cameoed on the CW show. And it's just, that makes no sense to me. Otherwise, movie was fine. I enjoyed my time with it. Ezra Miller, shitty person. I think they did a very good job in this movie, though. I'm going to be honest. Sasha Kaye was a standout for the like 5 minutes of screen time that she had, and Michael Keaton's Batman was awesome as well. A little goofy, but still awesome. I like to see him. Oh, also George Clooney cameo was a whatever cameo in my opinion, but that's my thoughts on it.
Okay,
I also don't know how long I have, so I just wanted to give my flash thoughts.
No, that's fine. Do we want to power through Extraction 2 while you're here since you saw
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's do Extraction 2, dropped 2 days ago, directed by Sam Hargrave, written by Joe Russo, unfortunately.
Boo.
Which is based
I
off a
think we're
graphic.
all-
I didn't know it was based off a graphic novel that the Russo brothers wrote. Like, I didn't know they wrote
Yeah.
a graphic
I
novel
heard
and it was
that. I
based on
didn't know
that.
either.
Yeah, and then they went with Sam Hargrave to direct, which is it's cool. I think Sydney posted a video about this, how Sam Hargrave used to be Captain Chris Evans' stunt double for Captain America, and now he's directing Extraction the same way. I believe it's Chad Stahelski, the guy that directed John Wick, used to be Keanu Reeves' stunt double for The Matrix. So I guess, give these guys a better script, and I guess they know what they're fucking doing, although the John Wicks have fantastic scripts already. Give Sam Hargrave a fantastic script, and he'll make a great movie. Cam, we'll start with you because I don't know how much time you have. Give us are we going into spoilers on Extraction 2? Do we really?
You will know.
Are there really any like spoilers?
You'll know.
Yeah, you know exactly the kind of movie you're going into. So we'll give a spoiler warning here just in case we let something slip. But I doubt we're gonna go heavy into spoilers.
Make this whole thing spoilers. Who cares? I will say I loved Extraction 2. I really enjoyed it. Sam Hargrave is, I think, a really good director. Honestly, like you said, he's Captain America's stunt double. He was like the stunt choreographer on Captain America: Civil War. I believe Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame. I think a ton of different things as well. I looked him up like yesterday and completely forget it now. Awesome for him that he got to direct Extraction. People loved it, and so he gets to come back and do it again. Like you guys said, script is just a non-factor in this thing, and I don't think it needed to be a perfect script, but I think that's what elevates it from most. I gave it a 3.5. I still had a really great time with it, or a 74 out of 100. I think is right up there. It's like my 7th highest rated movie of the year at a 74 out of 100 or whatever. But I think the script, if it's better, that's what gets it into that 4.5 territory for most. I know Tyler's a lot lower on this movie than I think us, or maybe a little bit lower. I don't know. I think I might be the highest. I will say Tyler at one point mentioned, I read his Letterboxd review and mentioned that you didn't like the action choreography. Bonkers, or maybe action directing. I don't know. Bonkers take is all I'm giving you. The 21-minute one shot, fucking sick, slapped. And then the unfortunate part about that is it happens it's like the 30th minute of the movie, or it starts at like minute 28 or something. And I do think all the action pieces after that were just a step down, unfortunately. So that's kind of a bummer, but it was really cool in my opinion. Oh yeah, I mentioned this in a tweet. Like, Chris Hemsworth is injured for like 12 minutes of this movie. I'm back.
Hysterical. He gets one job offer, does a few push-ups, and he's good to go, guys.
shortest like workout montage I think I've ever.
Hysterical.
And then
movies are literally in a sling.
Yeah,
he was literally dead like a couple months ago. And now he just does a couple push-ups, and he's like, "Let's go, bro. Let's go."
Absolutely
to this.
And then I loved Movies Are Therapy's reply to you too, where he's like, and he was able to maintain that slick fade haircut while he's in prison.
Oh yeah, the whole
bro
time,
just got a dope haircut the whole time.
Dude is looking nice with it, man. Yeah, that was very fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Cam. I think I'm just a little lower. I went with a 3 out of 5, and it was the script for me. I can appreciate the action, and I think this is fantastic action choreography. I'm not taking anything away from Sam Hargrave. I really do think some of these massive set pieces are really fun to watch. And this is just one of those movies where, like, I don't think Sam Hargrave really gave a fuck about the script. I think he's just there to give us good action. I think he's there to make a dad movie, to put it, lightly.
Yeah, my dad would love this shit.
Yeah, like my dad would eat this shit up. And like I ate it up. Like I was locked in the entire time, but like I still need something. I can't overlook the fact that I don't care about any of these characters. Even the character of Tyler Rake, really, I don't really care about. I think he's awesome. I think he's cool. I said
very handsome as well.
Super handsome, obviously one of the most handsome guys on this planet. And I said in my Letterboxd review, like, I think Tyler Rake is like slowly climbing to the ranks of like John Wick and Jason Bourne and John McClane as like just one of the best like action heroes ever. But it is his lack of depth that really just holds me back. And it's the lack of like character depth that really holds me back. Like I do like these characters. I just don't care about them that much. And that's what really removes me from this movie. But that's not to take away from Sam Hargrave. I think this man can direct the fuck out of these action sequences. Obviously, we're kind of just beating the shit out of a dead horse when we talk about the 21-minute long one take. Thought it was sick the entire time they're in the prison yard with that riot. I was like so locked in. So I thought it was great. I would have loved to see Idris Elba like do something. Like I was waiting. Also, I didn't know he was in the movie. I don't know if that was like a cameo they were trying to like cover up or whatever. Maybe I just wasn't in the Extraction 2 news part of Twitter, but I didn't know he was there. But I was really, really waiting for like one scene where he just pops out and him and Chris Hemsworth just like fight alongside each other or some shit. So I'm hoping we get that in the third movie. Obviously, it's been already confirmed that a third movie is in the works. I don't think that needed to be confirmed with the way the second movie ended. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Went with a 3 out of 5. I think it's just a very modern day action movie. It's exactly what you're looking for in dauntless action. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for me. Slightly less on Cam, but basically the same thoughts.
Yeah.
Seth or Tyler?
I went 3 out of 5, so same as you. Watching this angered me, to be honest, because I think Sam Hargrave is actually a really good action director. I think he's visually inspiring in terms of the way he shoots action. I think he clearly knows what he's doing. And I just think a lot of it is it's a shame that a lot of it is overshadowed by, is it Joe Russo or Anthony Russo that wrote this? Is it Joe? Okay, yeah. I just think it was overshadowed because I can handle an average script with this. I don't need a good script, but I appreciate not a terrible one where they're having conversations about fucking TikTok and stuff like that. It's what we're doing.
That part specifically was so weird.
Is that like the first mention of TikTok in a major movie?
I can't remember one.
It's not the first, probably, but it's the first that I remember. And I was like, damn, TikTok, what the hell? Yeah,
that was crazy. And it's just annoying because I do. So the first one, I probably actually enjoyed this one a little bit more. The second one, it was bigger. It was more brutal. It was more ambitious in the way they shot action sequences. And some of them were really great, like the one-shot one that we beat a dead horse, like George said. But I really enjoyed it, and it just annoyed me because just give me an average script. You don't need to do too much. Just use the most basic revenge plot. Use whatever you want, but don't include the dialogue. It's just some of it would just took me out of the moment. It annoyed me, and I still rated it positively. So that goes to show how great I think Sam Hargrave is at shooting action, even though a lot of the action was completely illogical. I don't really need logic in these sort of films, and that takes away from it. I don't really care about having logic. And I just think that give me something bare bones, but don't give me absolute nonsense that Joe Russo gave me. I think the writing was detrimental to how much I enjoyed this film. And I still give it 3 stars, I still give it positively because I did enjoy it. But I think if it was, if this was just the action with a box standard plot that didn't have the horrendous dialogue, I'd probably give this like a 3.5 or a 4. I had a good time with it. But yeah, 3. Sam Hargrave clearly shoots action very well. There was some really fun set pieces. I just hated the script. I think it was genuinely awful. I think it's some of the best action I've seen in a few years, and one of the worst scripts I've seen in a few years.
I don't even know if I would go as far as saying it was like a shitty script. It was just so bland. Like it was just. It was literally as if they just like typed into like Chat GPT and they were like,
I think it was. I think
like
ChatGPT
action
was-
movie. Like
I think
someone
they would.
Joe Russo is just kind of a dickhead. I still will always love him for Infinity War and Endgame, whatever. But he's just kind of a dickhead right now, where he's like, oh no, there's no one needs to go to cinemas or whatever. And he's also the kind of guy that's like, ChatGPT can write a script just as good as anyone else. And it's like, this is why, dude.
Yeah.
You make this. And he's like, the Extraction 2 is like his good enough, I'm sure. Like, I think at this point, I really genuinely think they have just booked it after Endgame and Infinity War, where they're like, this is good enough. We are going, the Gray Man, they're making their money. They don't give a shit.
Have they
anymore.
wrote any other films apart from the Gray Man and Extraction?
Didn't they write Cherry?
I think they wrote Cherry. I could be
I don't
wrong.
think
I'll look
I
it
mean,
up.
they
I'll look it
definitely
up.
directed Cherry. I'm not sure if they wrote it.
I don't think I know what that is.
But yeah,
Joe
like
Russo,
again,
right?
I don't
Yeah.
think like the script wasn't horrifically bad where I like gave this movie a 1.5 or a 1 out of 5. It was just the most bland, basic script ever, with like so little like depth to the characters, so little depth on like the, I guess we'll call them villains, or just the opposition, the antagonist.
Cherry was a bit of a mishmash, but there were like 4 or 5 writers credited, but they were in that. So
yeah. All right, Tyler, your thoughts on Extraction 2?
Yeah, I mean, my letterbox pretty clearly says like the opposite of what Cam said. I said that they're amazing action directors. The action was the best part, but the illogical part, like Seth said, is what they don't know how to do. Chad Stileski knows how to make logical action. Sam Hargrave wasn't able to do that. There was just a couple moments like in the train where, so the thing with Sam Hargrave is he's a big on whatever the camera sees is what the villain sees. So there's so many times in like the train specifically where there'd be like three guys with guns standing there, and then like it would turn around, you see Chris Hemsworth standing right in front of him. They're like, oh, he's right there. And like, they wouldn't see him until the camera sees him. I'm like, there's a corridor of a train. Like, he's not hiding anywhere. So I'm just saying he's not good at making logical action. I'm saying his action directing is awesome. And it was the best part of the movie by far. But he's just not able to, the blocking of his shots, he still needs to get better. Because there's a lot of times where Tyler Rake's just standing in plain sight, but because the camera doesn't see him, no one else can see him. Yeah. And especially in a train when it's literally like a 4 foot wide corridor, like there's just nowhere to hide. Like, and he's just walking right at him, but we don't see, like, I don't know. There's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, this is like pretty illogical, but I thought the action was all fun to watch. But yeah, like we said, the script was awful. Like, I think the script was more boring to me than the first one, just purely because I think when you have franchises like this, you have to build on it. Like John Wick, every movie builds on the lore, it gets deeper. Whereas I feel like this just kept the lore the exact same, which by proxy makes it worse than the first one, just because it's like, okay, we're not really expanding this universe. But the action's better than the first one. The one take sequence was so awesome, so brutal. So yeah, like but yeah, kind of like Cam said, it sucks that it's so early on because the rest of the action is really great. Just doesn't quite reach that level. So you're kind of like, oh, you kind of gave us the best part at the beginning.
Yeah, should have saved it for like down the line.
Yeah, but yeah, the action was super fun. I gave it a 5.3 out of 10 for 2.5 stars. Like, it's just very middle of the road in terms of I love the action, but as I've always been consistent on this podcast, I've never been a big pure action guy, so I'm not going to rate it that high. And then the script just brings it down a lot for me. But I don't know. We'll see, because the thing is with John Wick, the lore expands so much every time. Therefore, it merits more movies. With Mission Impossible, the lore isn't quite the same level as John Wick, but there's still more lore to it, and Tom Cruise just does crazier things every movie, so it's like more exciting to see. Whereas Extraction's kind of rinse and repeating for the most part, with just making the action a little bigger. But that's why I'm not super excited for Extraction 3, because it's like, what's going on here? Like, are you going to introduce more characters like Idris Elba? They tried to, but they didn't really go deep into that. So I think the Russo brothers, because I'll say the brothers because it is based on a graphic novel they wrote, doesn't seem like they have the necessary footings to make this a big universe. But because the first one was so beloved by like a cult following of like the action and the one take sequences are so cool, it also kind of screws them because Extraction 3, like, it needs to have a longer one take. Like, they've already established Extraction are the one take movies. 7 minutes, 20, like, whatever extraction scene they do in the third one, it's going to have to be bigger and better than this one. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But it was fine. It was a fine movie.
I kind of want them to pull like a 1917 and just make the whole movie a long take and just
massive one take.
Yeah, just see what happens, honestly.
But that to Tyler's point, that's what separates like the Extraction franchise from John Wick. John Wick builds on the lore as well as the action, where Extraction strictly builds on the action. Like, there's no lore building, there's no like character development, there's none of that. It's strictly they are just trying to one up the action in all of these films, which you're either on board for that or you're not. Clearly, I think all three of us are just kind of middle of the pack. Like, we don't mind it, but we don't necessarily love it. But yeah, this is like the most B-tier action movie that could have been released, and to some people, that's exactly what they're looking for.
I don't think this counts as B-tier action though, because a B-tier action, I think, is like a Plane or the Gray Man, where like this, like I think they truly put a ton of effort into the action. Yeah, which I think helped. I don't think this counts as like a B-tier action. And also, sorry if there's a ton of wind right now. Obviously, I'm outside in fucking Florida. Okay, that's great.
Did you guys hear a dog, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Tyler. He's muted.
I thought it was you. I was confused there.
No, it's Tyler. But I just really don't think this should count as a B-tier action. Like this is not, in my opinion, this is not on the level of like Plane or what did I just mention? And now the Gray Man or Red Notice or any Ryan Reynolds like action movie or The Rock action movie. Like, I just don't think this falls into that same category.
It's a very high tier of action. If you go in action alone, I would say it's a high.
Yeah.
Maybe not to John Wick, but like just a step down from that.
Mm-hmm. It's like an A- tier, we'll call it B+ tier.
We'll take that.
I do want to mention, I don't know, and this is completely for a clip. I'm going to clip it up. So just, yeah. But I don't know if you guys have seen, like from Extraction 1, there's an awesome like behind the scenes clip of Sam Hargrave filming an action scene, and he's just strapped to the front of a car holding a camera. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It's incredible. Like it's one of the coolest like behind the scenes action directing just I've ever seen, because he's just literally like they've got him cabled to this car and he's holding the camera trying to catch everything. It's very cool.
It's like one of those old Deacon shots where he's in like the most obscure position.
It's things like that make me at least appreciate this movie for being more than, like I said, a B-tier action movie. Like, they're clearly putting a ton of effort in. I don't see a Sean Levy, who directed Free Guy and what was the last Ryan Reynolds movie? Sorry to call out
The Adam Project.
The Adam Project.
Hey,
I like the Adam Project. Don't get me wrong, and I liked Free Guy actually a lot.
You liked Free Guy? Oh,
I liked Free Guy. I'll say
I like both of those movies rated higher than Extraction 2.
Wow.
I like Free Guy.
I have them both at a 3.5.
I don't think I like the Adam Project.
Bro, I don't know what it was with the Adam Project, but like that hit me emotionally. I don't know what it was. Like, it really hit me. But all right,
I just don't see him hopping on a car is all I really want to say. Like, I don't think they are putting in as much effort.
You don't think Scorsese's hopping on the front of a train trying to
film? Scorsese might, but
Killers
he's like,
of the Flower Moon.
He's just like, he's hopping in front of like a gun and just like, all right, shoot. We're getting this perfect.
All right. I went with a 3 out of 5. Cam went with a 3.5 out of 5. Seth went with a 3 out of 5. And Tyler went with a 2.5 out of 5. So that wraps up our Extraction review. We are halfway through our reviews. Like we said, absolutely massive a week of new releases that we all did our best to see as many as possible. So the next one, Pixar's latest, Elemental. I believe only Tyler and I saw this.
It's not out here until next week, I think.
Of course.
Don't spoil anything. I genuinely am very sad.
Move to New York, bro. So yeah, we'll keep Elemental fairly brief, fairly short. We'll keep it non-spoilers. Tyler, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and I'll actually kick us off with the short before Elemental, Carl's Date.
Oh yeah, right.
Which I thought was just super average, and I didn't care for it much. But then like I just hate, like, it was so fan servicey, and the fact that Up was what, over 10 years ago now? Over 10 years ago. And then they just throw in this short, which I get they had the Doug Day short that they've kind of been keep on going, but I just feel like this is such like an average, just nothing short, that then they like play the Up theme at the very end of it to try like the slow piano to try and like be like, hey guys, remember how sad this is, and like remember this like great movie you all loved. Whatever. It was nothing. I'm just gonna say like it was just whatever short. It wasn't anything great, wasn't anything bad. It was just there before the movie. But Elemental itself, Cam, we won't spoil anything for you. Don't worry. It's the
You
thing.
can. I can take off mine.
Okay.
There's
whatever.
nothing to
There's-
spoil.
there's
You
just-
know
really.
I love
there's
Pixar.
simply-
There's nothing really to spoil.
There's simply really just like nothing to spoil here. So the thing is, like with Elemental, it's a good movie in terms of, I gave it a 3-star. I thought it was fine. But with Pixar, I feel like when they handle topics, they usually give us such a nuanced perspective on them and such an interesting, creative way to deliver it. Whereas this one just felt so on the nose and so like anyone could have thought this idea up. Like, and I saw like Sydney tweeted or something, or put her in her review. She's like, not sure this should ever really left the writer's room, but it was still like a cute movie. And I kind of feel that way too. Like, it just felt like such a non-nuanced movie for Pixar standards. Like I said, I liked it, gave it a 3 out of 5. I didn't love it, but I just felt like the whole immigrant story, which was done well. And like I said in my Letterboxd review, like, I'm really happy this movie exists, because I think for kids in their formative years watching this will be great to kind of show you how other cultures mix. And, sometimes someone might not look like you, might not talk the same way as you, has a name that you don't understand or see as weird, but you're all just people at the end of the day, and you are going through the same life together. So like, I'm happy this movie exists culturally, but I just felt like it was just so by the numbers, so by the book. It didn't have that spark that Pixar normally has. I think, George, you said something similar in your Letterboxd review, but it's just tough because I did like this movie, but it just felt very surface level for Pixar standards. The animation I did think was pretty cool, but what's up?
When it comes to, I missed the start of this conversation, so correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of like the simplicity of it, would the simplicity be comparable to something with, less nuance like Luca, for example, or are you saying it doesn't really work on the same level? Because to me, the best thing about Pixar sometimes is when they strip down and they bear the essentials and they don't give me a film just tries to attempt to put you into an existential crisis, whatever, like a Luca, or is it just really bare bones to the point it doesn't really offer much?
No, I think it's the latter portion, because I really do like Luca, and I think it's kind of different what it is here. I think this is very much, basically like the story is, water people, like basically the fire people represent a community going into like New York City, for example, and they have their own niche of the area, kind of like Chinatown would be.
So it does actually attempt something. It's not like Luca where it's like deliberately not nuanced. It does actually attempt to be, but it's just on the nose, maybe?
Yeah, it's just basically on the nose. Basically, the fire people are kind of like live in like similar to something like a Chinatown, where they don't really integrate with society. They're kind of cornered off in their own area. People don't really come visit them much. They like are kind of like, oh, let them do their own thing. They're not part of our society. But then obviously the other cultures like meet them, they start mixing, and then things become happy. It's like, hey, you're just people like us. I really like Luca, but for example, like Turning Red, which is a movie I didn't love as much as most people, I think that was a very creative way to tackle culture and tackle stuff like that. But whereas Elemental just felt so on the nose. What do you give to Turning Red, Seth? You probably gave like a 3 out of 5.
No, I give it 3.5. I did actually like Turning Red.
Okay, that's fair.
Red.
But I don't know. That's all I got to say. And I thought the voice acting was like really, really good. I really liked the voice acting, and that's something they all were really great. And for the most part, other than like Catherine Hahn, I think is her name, Catherine O'Hara, who was in Schitt's Creek. She's like the only recognizable name I saw on the cast list for like the voice actors. But all the people did great, and I did really like the animation. I thought it was a cool, fun little world, kind of like how Strange World was from Disney last year. It was just kind of an interesting, cool little world they built, and the animation looked cool. But it was just a little service level for me, which is fine. Like I said, I liked it, just wasn't blown away by it, and wasn't really gonna rave about it like any other Pixar movie.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm right there with you with a 3 out of 5. I don't know. This movie, Pixar has such a long line of just giving us like such fantastic animated movies with, such important themes and stuff like that. And I think Elemental does tackle subjects that need to be tackled, especially for a younger audience, especially for people maybe who feel ostracized or feeling comfortable with whoever in your life. My problem with this movie was they tried to tackle too much, and nothing necessarily felt as fleshed out as it could have been. And when you compare that to like an Inside Out, who's tackling one subject of growing up and moving, it just feels very bare bones and basic, because Inside Out does such a good job at fleshing out this one crucial life aspect of this little girl's life, whereas Elemental, they try to kind of throw a lot of crap in her direction, not being able to be with this guy because they're of different elements, not wanting to take over her father's shop because, you know, that's not the life path she wants to take. So I think this movie tackles a lot of important themes that, especially for a younger audience, is going to be, you know, vitally important in their upbringing. But I don't think any of those themes were necessarily as fleshed out as I would have liked them to be. And one thing that's kind of like, and this isn't like a story related issue, Pixar needs to do something different with their animation. Like, I think all of their movies have the exact same animation style, and none of them are doing anything to necessarily stand out among each other. And especially coming off of a movie like Across the Spider-Verse, that's absolutely pushing the boundaries of animation.
Like half the budget of a lot of them as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not blowing me away the way, you know, maybe past Pixar films or Ghibli films or even the Spider-Verse films are. And I feel like when you have Pixar, arguably the biggest animation studio in the world, they need to do more with the animation. This felt very, I don't want to say easy, obviously, because I don't know how much it takes to animate a fucking movie, but
easy
this just felt
comparatively to
it just felt very run of the mill. It feels like they didn't really stretch their animation talent, and that's kind of how I feel about this entire movie. It didn't feel like they were doing anything over the top. They weren't stretching any of their, you know, abilities or resources. They just kind of felt like they were putting out another Pixar movie just to put out another Pixar movie. But again, with that said, I enjoyed my time with this movie. I think there were a lot of cute moments. I think there's a lot of important themes here that definitely need to be in film. Unfortunately, I just think they just gave it to us in a very bare minimum type way.
Yeah, I like the animation, but now that I'm thinking about your comment more, like at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I agree. But then when I'm thinking about it more, like Strange World from Disney Studios last year had some crazy cool animation that's different than anything they've done. Suzume from this year, from it wasn't Ghibli, but you know, Suzume was incredible animation that was way different than stuff we've seen recently. And then Across the Spider-Verse, it seems like every other animation studio right now is really pushing the boundaries of animation, whereas Pixar's playing a little more safe, which is fine. But the fact that their budgets are so crazy high, like, it just doesn't really make that much sense. But
that's the one thing. It's like, what are we comparing it to? I don't know. It's like comparing it to a Marvel movie. Marvel movies have these massive budgets, and it feels like they're very infrequently pushing the boundaries of what they could do with like CGI. And that's how I feel about Pixar. Like, Pixar has such a massive budget. I'm pretty sure Elemental's budget was like twice the size of Across the Spider-Verse's budget.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it was.
If you're crazy when you mention like Across the Spider-Verse's budget, because it is so low compared to like every other.
Not even just Pixar, just animation in general.
Yeah, and it's like, how the fuck do you just do that? How does a different studio have double the budget and still make it look shit?
How is someone?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't.
But no. I want to make it clear. I don't think Elemental looked shit at all. I think it looked good.
I was talking about the Flash. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, Elemental did not look bad by any means. It just felt very standard. Like, it felt like they weren't doing anything to push the boundaries of animation.
And I'm happy you touched on the one part about the stories too, how there's just so many, because I forgot, like, so yeah, there's a relationship aspect of reaching across cultures, but then there's also the internal culture of, you know, her following her father's footsteps and taking his job. And I feel like those two things alone could have been like separate movies, like about someone growing up in a strict culture of where it's like, you are going to do exactly what the family does, do the family business, but she doesn't really want to. She wants to be an artist. She wants to do glass work instead. That could have been a separate thing, but that had to be mixed in with this romance. And
then on top of that, you're adding in this whole subplot of them like fixing this dam, protecting the Fire Nation or the Fire World.
I didn't care for that at all. That was so weird.
Yeah, didn't care for that at all. So there was just so much going on that, I don't know, it kind of removed any depth from all of these stories. Like, this movie could have been a trilogy for all I care. That's how much was going on. But overall, I went with a 3 out of 5. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I didn't enjoy my time. Some of the emotional aspects hit. Tyler also went with a 3 out of 5. So that will conclude our Elemental chatter. Moving on, the final movie of our review before we get into our Black Mirror season 6 review is The Blackening, which is the new horror comedy. I think only Tyler and I saw this.
Yeah, it's not out here. I have no idea when it comes out.
Naturally.
What distribution company did that? What was it?
I have absolutely no idea.
No idea.
Because I've not heard. Oh, it comes out in August here, late August.
All right, that's not too far actually. But all right, let's run through the Blackening. We'll keep this again spoiler free. I don't think there's a lot to talk about here. I went with a 3.5 out of 5. I had a blast with this movie in the theaters. I was losing my mind. Some of the comedy just absolutely hits. They absolutely nail it home with the comedy. I wrote in my Letterboxd review that this is a horror comedy that leans 90% towards the comedy. The horror, it's not scary. There's no part of this movie that had me frightened. It's a very the horror aspect at least it's just very basic slasher, I guess we'll call it, type movie. But the comedy is what really sold it for me. This movie was absolutely hysterical. I'll go as far as saying this was one of my favorite theater experiences of the year. My theater was having a blast with this thing. They were losing their minds. It made my experience so much better because like I love just watching people love a movie. So being in that theater, I saw it by myself. So I was surrounded by like just a bunch of group of friends that were watching it together. And they were just losing it. They were like narrating the film. They were like, don't go in that room, turn the fucking lights on. And I was crying. But no, overall, I think this is a very, very effective horror comedy. Again, super more of a comedy than a horror. So the horror aspects did kind of let me down. I expected more from that part of the film, especially because this movie was marketed as being, I don't want to say frightening, but the trailer was like, it made it seem like this was going to be a relatively more frightening film than what we got.
The trailer, they did the classic like crowd reaction shots where it's like when they show a scary moment.
Yeah, exactly. They did like that thing. I remember seeing that. So I was like fully prepared to like, have some scary jump scare stuff. But no, none of the horror, like, I don't know, the horror, it's not resonating with me. There was no horrific moment in this movie where I was like, wow, that's going to sit with me for a long time the way that one scene in Hereditary sat with me or whatever. But yeah, overall, I had a blast with this movie. I really enjoyed it. The comedy hits. The acting was stellar. The chemistry between our entire cast of characters was really solid. It really felt like this was just a group of friends that decided to make a movie together. The one knock outside of the lack of horror that I have for this movie would be the ending. We're not going to spoil anything, but there is like a final reveal, a little twist that I'm not going to sit here and say I'm smart and that like I saw it coming from a mile away, but I feel like this movie didn't do a good enough job at hiding it. So it didn't really come as a shock. And I was hoping throughout the movie that something different would happen. But yeah, the ending, just everything was resolved a little too fast. I didn't think the movie was going to end where it ended. I really thought there was going to be like another 20 minutes of more. So it just felt like very abrupt. Tyler, I don't know if you feel the same, but those are my overall thoughts. I go with a 3.5 out of 5. I had a blast watching this thing, and I'll probably watch it again when it comes out.
Yeah, I echo everything you're saying. I thought this was so funny. And the ending, I do think, is the weakest part. And then also the horror elements are definitely lacking. So other than that, like I thought this could have been almost like a 4-star movie. Like for me, like I really enjoyed it that much. Yeah. My theater was also packed and having a great time too. So the movie follows like this group of friends celebrating, like, or remembering Juneteenth, kind of going on and it's been like 10 years since they did it for the last time. So it's kind of a bunch of friends that aren't really super close, all of them necessarily, but like they've been friends for a long time. They kind of get back together for a weekend at this like Airbnb basically. So today is Juneteenth when you're listening to this. So if you don't have if you have today off work or day off school, educate yourself on what the day is about and read all about it. But the Blackening is so funny, dude. Like normally I don't love obviously like crowd interaction. I know Seth is the same way, but this movie was very similar to when we did our patron watch along From Dusk Till Dawn, where it's like, it's such a ridiculous, it's such a ridiculous, fun, crazy, bizarre movie that like, it's kind of fun to have interaction. Like there's one moment when like there's a door creaked that goes outside in the dark woods and like you hear some noise out there and like a character slowly moving up to the door and they just go up to it and just shut it and lock it. And then my crowd just immediately just like erupted in applause. I was like, that's hilarious. Like,
yeah, there's like, I remember like Barbarian for me was one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I quite like that because Barbarians, the film, is so ridiculous that you actually quite like hearing people's reactions. So I don't mind. I think with this, I probably like it. To be fair.
Yeah, no, the crowd interaction definitely worked here, and I mentioned this to George before everyone else joined the call, but I can't remember a single joke from the movie, but I know from the beginning to end, I was just laughing hilariously, which is kind of a credit to the comedic writing, because I don't think this is a movie that's like a one-liner joke or punchline or stuff like that. It's just the genuine comedic influence of this entire script is just so well done.
Who's it directed by? Anyone that?
I don't think anyone.
Yeah, it's directed by Tim Story, and he's done the Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
And Ride Along. Yeah.
But did Barbershop.
Ride Along sucks.
Wait, I
agree.
Right movie. I agree there. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, I am.
There's not much horror elements here, but I love what the element of horror was that kicked off this movie into motion. Like the board game of the Blackening was so unique and cool, and like the way there's like this board game that's like you got to play this game, and if you don't, you're gonna die. It was just so unique and different, like in terms of like what the actual board game was, which was so jarring when you first see it. You're like, holy shit, this is intense. And then there were some fun moments, like in terms of like the chases and like the kills and stuff, but ultimately this is a comedy, and I recommend anyone to see it. When I posted my all the movies coming out in June TikTok, I said like my hype level for each. Mine was a 1 out of 10 for this, just because of the trailers. I thought it just looked pretty stupid, and I didn't think it looked that engaging or exciting. And then I saw it, and I'm like, this is one of my favorite experiences of the year. It's so funny. The entire cast was great. The chemistry, I just loved each of their individual characters and like the lore they built around each other. I thought was so funny. But yeah, fun movie. I think everyone will have a blast with it. Definitely took me by surprise. Nothing really else to say. I wish the ending was a little more creative and different, and I wish there maybe was a little more scary elements to it, just mainly since they did market it so heavily as a scary movie. Like we said, they literally had the classic like Paranormal Activity trailers where it's like they have like a moment and they show the crowd like, whoa, freak out like of scares. But so I was buckled in for a little more scary than I ended up getting. But yeah, man, like I just can't get over like how funny this script was. Just like everything about it, just so many jokes are just so good in this, and there's so many great callbacks, and I just really thought this cast had so much great chemistry, and I don't really recognize any of them from anything. I feel like there's a couple that I kind of like was like, you're a familiar face. I don't really know where you're from, but really for the most part, these are kind of no-name actors to me that I just don't know of, but they were all great.
They had the guy from White Man Can't Jump, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's definitely who I think. And
Walsh, I think.
Yeah,
the new one.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah, the main guy.
The old one's Wesley Snipes, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it could have been another.
People know who he is.
Yeah, but
could have been another guy.
That's great, bro.
Cinco Wells. Okay, that makes sense though, because he was the only guy who I was like, I know you from something, but what was it? But yeah, honestly, like if you have the day off today, go watch this movie. Like you're gonna have a fun time with it.
Yeah, it really was a blast. And again, I think my theater experience elevated it, but I'm right there with Tyler. I would have liked a little more horror, and I would have liked the ending to be a little more, I don't even know, a little more just fireworks or whatever. Not. It just felt like very abrupt, and it just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, and the twist didn't really sell me. But overall, like Tyler said, yeah, go.
The post-credits stuff, like my theater was erupting in laughter for that, because basically, like this doesn't spoil anything, but basically, like the movie resolves, and like they're like, all right, well, do we like call the cops now? And they're like, hell no, we're not calling no.
They started hysterically laughing, bro. The scene, oh my god, this isn't a spoiler, but at one point in the movie, like a cop returns to come back, and they like drop all their weapons, and the cop's like, come with me, and they like slowly look at the cop and pick up all their weapons again, and my theater lost their mind with that.
Yeah, that was so good. I'm glad. Yeah, okay, never mind. It was gonna spoil something, but yeah, like the cop was well done, and the jokes surrounding the cop were so funny, and
they were funny. A lot of the jokes hit. Yeah, a lot of the jokes were very hit. It was a funny movie. I definitely recommend this one for a lot of people. All right, our final review of the day.
I'm cutting in. Y'all haven't had me for a while, so I'm just cutting in. Sorry. Sorry to cut you off, George, but
you're good.
Couple notes. Didn't mention it during Elemental's review. Lowest opening for a Pixar movie ever, 29 million. Kind of crazy. Kind of fun little tidbit. Also,
it's coming out the week that The Flash comes out.
Yeah,
The Blackening comes out. Extraction.
There's
2.
so many movies.
There's so much, and I can't imagine Elemental is a top.
This is one of the craziest summers for big blockbusters. I know we've talked about it a million times, but it is
Yeah.
crazy this week's openings. Also, like Asteroid City premiered in a lot of places. But another point: have you guys seen the Flash like putting the baby back in the microwave like video in going around?
People are reversing that video.
The funniest video I've ever seen. It's getting overused, but it's still hilarious. I love it.
So many tweets. People are just like, can someone please explain the context around this one clip? And I'm like, bro, it's backwards.
Yeah. Another point, Ezra Miller just delivering any line about being a good person. I audibly laughed out loud.
Yeah.
That just made me laugh. But sorry to cut you off. I just feel like if I'm not, I
good.
don't have a ton of time, so I got to get in my little tidbits when I can.
That was funny. All right, let's move on to our Black Mirror season 6 review. Again, I'm pretty sure just myself and Tyler killed the entire season.
Hey, shout out to both of you. Shout out to both of you this week.
Yeah, honestly, we grinded this week.
I
was supposed to.
I'm jealous.
My double feature on Thursday was supposed to be a triple feature. I was supposed to see Asteroid City. There was one screening at 10:45 p.m. in the city, but I didn't go.
Too late for that. Yeah,
I could not do a triple feature.
And that was like your first ever double feature. There's no need to dive right into a triple feature. You got to use yourself.
Second double feature. Second. First one was Scream 6 on 65. Goated double feature.
Also, another side point, people are already blaming James Gunn for The Flash, and it's hilarious because people are idiots.
Obviously.
Not a James Gunn movie. Not a James
Clearly,
Gunn
people
movie.
don't watch the ReelTok podcast because you've mentioned that 700 times.
Yeah, silly people.
All right, let's move on to Black Mirror season 6. Tyler, how do you want to do this? Do you want to just review the whole season, or do you want to just quickly go episode by episode?
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you want to do it. I guess let's just go episode by episode and give our just brief high-level thoughts. I know Seth's probably going to watch it like this week or sometime soon. And a lot of people haven't got to it yet because not everyone's able to grind through it all. But we'll go high-level every episode, just starting with Jonah's Awful and run our way through D79.
And we'll keep it spoiler-free. I know internally among ourselves, we've talked about doing a real quick ranking all the Black Mirror episodes. So maybe we'll put that off until Cam and Seth watched season 6.
That's good thing. Cam's got like 30 episodes.
Oh, have you not seen anything?
I think I said this. Same with Secession. I will watch these shows. Like if I'm not watching them in the moment, they've already had like 6 seasons, whatever. I will watch these shows when this becomes my full-time job. I'm sorry. I cannot, or I get an online job. I cannot right now. I'm sorry.
That's fair. But you'll rewatch all of Star Wars twice a year.
Dude, I cut halfway through. I didn't even do that, I do want to get back on that, but I did cut like halfway through.
All right, let's keep it going because we're pushing the 2-hour mark. Jonah's Awful was the first episode of the season. That stars Annie Murphy, Salma Hayek. We also have Himesh Patel and Michael Cera making small cameos. Quick non-spoiler thoughts. I think this is a really solid opening. I think this does a good job at bringing us back into the meta techno world of Black Mirror, giving us like these futuristic concepts that are eerily realistic. Obviously, something like this is just wildly unrealistic, but like kind of realistic, if that makes sense. But I think this was a really solid episode. It was, I think Annie Murphy is an absolute delight. I think her rapport with Salma Hayek works really well back and forth. And the ending of this episode absolutely sold it for me. I really like the resolution, mainly because I didn't see it coming. And obviously we'll keep it spoiler free, but I really did not see the ending of this episode being the ending on how they kind of resolve this entire issue. But overall, I think this was a really solid introduction into another season of Black Mirror. And maybe it was just because season 5 left such a bad taste in my mouth that I thought very highly of Jonah's Awful. I think it was I don't think Black Mirror was doing anything in Jonah's Awful to like resonate with me or really push the boundaries of what they've done in the past, from like a White Christmas to a USS Callister. But in terms of series premieres, episode 1, I think this is just a really good job at bringing us back into the world of Black Mirror and kind of these absurd, futuristic concepts that they've been giving us in the past.
Yeah, I echo that. I gave it a 4-star. I really liked it. The first like 15, 20 minutes, I was pretty unsure about. I was like, I don't really know if I'm going to like where this is going. There's a lot of comedic elements that sometimes Black Mirror is able to pull off, sometimes they aren't. But then once it really starts to get going around like a third way mark into it, I completely flipped the switch and I absolutely started loving this. The ending, like you said, is so great, and the way they tie it in, I didn't see it coming. It's one of those, like a lot of Black Mirror episodes, where the more you think about it, the more you can point out like plot holes and like issues with it. But definitely the way that it transpires is nice, like eerily creepy. Basically, like the dystopian elements they're tackling in this one are both like terms and conditions and what those can do to you, as well as artificial intelligence, which I get so artificial intelligence for writers and in the writing world and in the movie world is something that's relatively new-ish in terms of what the general public talking about it. I'm sure actual writers like Charlie Brooker and other writers have known this is coming a lot longer than the discourse of the public has been. But I was still more like, this is so timely because there's a whole movie about or episode about like AI, like writing scripts and stuff like that. And I was like, dang, it's like perfect they got this come out now, and it's just like the huge buzz topic of everything, even though, they were probably producing this like a year ago, if not more. So nice to kind of jump the gun on that, which Black Mirror has done time and time again, where they kind of can see where technology is going before the rest of the world catches up to it. But Andy Murphy's great. Salma Hayek's great. Loved Michael Cera in this. I wish we got more of him. But yeah, this was such a great way to start the season off. I really enjoy this one. 4 stars, like I said. And maybe I'm overrating it just because, like George said, season 5 was such a bad taste in my mouth as well. It just wasn't a good season at all. But this was just a banger way to start off. A great, fun, interesting dystopian look at the world with quite a cool resolution at the end.
Yeah. Super lighthearted compared to like past Black Mirror episodes when they tackle things like AI and that shit. But solid introduction to the season. I go with a 4 out of 5. It's my second ranked of the season. It's my third ranked of the season, so it falls right in the middle. But overall, it's a solid season. Episode 2 was titled Loch Henry. And this was a young couple travel to a sleepy Scottish town to start work on a genteel nature documentary, but find themselves drawn into a juicy local story involving shocking events of the past. This is my number 2 rank of the season. Could have very well been my number 1. This was just the perfect time for Black Mirror to dive into true crime, coming off of Dahmer and Apple TV Plus's Blackbird, as well as just this emergence of true crime obsession over the last couple of years. I think this was just a really, I don't want to say culturally relevant episode, but it was just a very relevant episode given people's obsession with true crime as of late. And I thought this episode was fantastic. I think the entire episode had just like this very haunting presence to it. This very eerie aura around it, which just it made for a very intriguing watch. I just never wanted to remove my eyes from the screen because I was so interested where this episode was going. It does such a good job at like keeping me on my toes, not knowing what is, the history with the specific crime at hand, as well as where it's going to go. And I think the episode does a really good job at subverting our expectations towards the end with exactly how it plays out, which I really fucking love. So I went with a 4 out of 5 on Loch Henry. It is my second rank of the season. Really, really enjoyed the tackling of true crime. And I think this was as good an episode in true crime as Black Mirror could have given us.
Yep, I gotta agree. I give this a 3.5 star, but a 7.4 out of 10, so right lower. This is right under a 4 star. This is my middle of the road episode for the season in terms of this is my number 3. It definitely keeps you guessing the entire time. There's like the only episode in the season I think that I can think of that had like actors and actresses that I haven't really seen and stuff before. So a lot more no-name-ish crew, but I thought they all did very good.
The lead girl was in Bodies.
I haven't seen that yet, so that makes sense why I wouldn't recognize that. But Stewart, freaking MVP. I love Stewart. He played Podrick in Game of Thrones. Yeah, he was so
great
funny,
character.
And like he's one of those characters that like once he joins in and like his comedy starts coming, you're like, this could easily be a character that gets overdone, but it didn't. I was like, I need more of him. He was so awesome. This is the scariest and creepiest Black Mirror has gotten since Playtest. It keeps you guessing the whole time. It's definitely eerie throughout. I didn't love the finality of one person in the episode, which wish they could have done that a little better, but the ending definitely subverted my expectations where I thought I knew it was going, and it kind of went there-ish, but was different than I was initially expecting. So that was well done. But yeah,
I want to go into spoilers on this episode because of Riley's Letterboxd review of it. Because what she says is,
wait, you gonna say spoilers now?
No, we're not going to go into it. But Riley's Letterboxd, she
scared.
just put one quick sentence, and that's exactly what I thought after the episode.
I don't know if I know you're talking about, so you need to text me on the side that Letterboxd review so I can look at it. But
can I check Riley's Letterboxd review, George, or is that the spoiler?
No. It's a spoiler.
Oh, that is the spoiler.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not a spoiler just because you don't really know. Tyler, I just texted it to you. But yeah, that I swear to God, that's exactly what I thought after the episode ended. I was like, okay, like this.
I was like, which Riley on movie TikTok am I like not aware of? Riley, my freaking girlfriend.
Riley, your girlfriend, Riley.
I was like, who are you talking about?
Your girlfriend.
So funny.
Yeah, I saw her review and I was like, that's exactly what I fucking thought, man. I was like, and that's what like elevated the show for me. The idea that is true. And obviously I'm not going to say what that is, but if that is true, then I think that just adds so many layers to this episode that I just really fucking love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This doesn't spoil anything. So basically what the episode's about is basically the two people you see in the poster, the guy and the girl, they're dating and they're both film students and they're going to go make a documentary for their film class to try and debut. And once they go to his hometown, they figure out this true crime story of Loch Henry, or she gets aware of what this town had to go through. So instead of what they were going to film a movie on, they decide, okay, let's make a true crime documentary on this. And the ending reminded me a lot of Blowout in terms of like, they make this documentary, but then kind of like at what cost, they're like, like John Travolta at the end of Blowout, where he's like looking at his work and he's like, this is a masterpiece. But he's like, God damn, like it wasn't worth it in the end, and like that definitely leaves it very open ended because you still won't see where it's going. But it's definitely the scariest and creepiest an episode of Black Mirror has been throughout since Playtest for sure.
It's Playtest, no doubt. Definitely super haunting, super eerie, and just a really, really solid entry into true crime. Episode 3. A lot of people have been lauding this as the best episode. I'm on that train as well. It's called Beyond the Sea. It stars Aaron Paul and an alternative 1969. Two men on a perilous high-tech mission wrestle with the consequences of an unimaginable tragedy. I won't even say what the tragedy is because I feel like that's a spoiler, so we won't really necessarily go into it. But yeah, this is my favorite episode of the season. I think it runs a bit long, but I do think that this is one of the darker endings Black Mirror has given us. And it just made me feel so gross and uncomfortable. I said in my Letterboxd review, this episode felt like watching a car crash in slow motion. Like, where this episode's going. You know exactly how it's going to play out. It's not an episode that's going to like give you massive twists and turns and keep you guessing. Once one thing happens in this show and like it starts to unravel, where it's going to go. But it's like, it's such good writing, such good acting that you just can't help but be locked into this episode. And I absolutely love that. Again, I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. I think there are a lot of moments that just kind of dragged on. They just kind of reiterate a lot of points that didn't need to be reiterated with a couple of the relationships on screen. But overall, I love when Black Mirror dips into science fiction. I think they do a very, very good job at it. And this was not the standout episode of the season for me, but one of the standouts because I rate this and Loch Henry a 4 out of 5, but I edged this one slightly higher.
Yeah, this is my favorite episode of the season. It was so good. So basically, like, kind of what's going on here is Aaron Paul and Josh Hartnett are working on a space station, and they're kind of doing like a 5-year-long mission or something. But the way it works is they kind of aren't working 24/7, so they kind of do the tasks they need to do. Then they can go in this deep sleep, and they have a body double on Earth that they get to inhabit, live with their families. It looks exactly like them. So they can kind of live on Earth while also being a part of the mission up top. And yeah, like it... You see where it's going the whole time. It is like a crash, like your Letterboxd review is perfect, like a car crash in slow motion. But the finality of it subverted my expectations because I kind of thought I knew where I was going in terms of what ends up happening at the very end. But it kind of goes a little different for what I was expecting, which I loved. It is so dark. This is one of the darkest endings in Black Mirror history. And I thought they all were just so great in this. Aaron Paul, Josh Hartnett, Kate Mara. It's one of the best acted episodes of Black Mirror, but that's, again, not a surprise when you have three like staple actors who are in tons of stuff leading your episode. But the tension just kept building slowly throughout. Like this whole season in general, like the whole 60s, 70s vibe of every episode was so good. Like it just looked so nice and refreshing, and all the visuals and just the way every episode was shot was so good. But man, this one's just a haunting, dark episode. My favorite of the season. The tension throughout just keeps building to a point where you're like, holy shit, like this is about to boil over, and your eyes are just glued to the screen. And yeah, man, it's just a depressing ass episode, but it just went perfectly. Like Aaron Paul is so damn good, dude. Like Josh Hartnett and Kmart were great too, but Aaron Paul is so damn good.
Yeah, they were both amazing. And yeah, it's the ending. The ending is what just kind of threw this overboard for me, because it was like you kind of expected something to happen, and you kind of expected either that was going to happen, or I don't want to say what, because it'll spoil what actually happened. But yeah, the ending is one of the darker ones that Black Mirror has given us, and I think it's such a nice, just like cherry on top of an overall very tense episode, that it kept building to something. And if nothing had happened, I would have been a little tight, because it's like one of those things where it's like watching a like intense scene in a movie where the music keeps building and then there's like the big needle drop and then shit happens. That's what this episode felt like for me. But we'll continue on. Beyond the Sea, both mine and Tyler's number one ranked of the season. Episode 4, called Maisie Day. This one stars Zazie Beetz. A troubled starlet is dogged by invasive paparazzi while dealing with the consequences of a hit-and-run incident. This is my lowest rated of the season, and I give it a 2.5. So it's not like I thoroughly dislike it to the level that I dislike the episodes of season 5. This just felt very non-Black Mirror, if that makes sense. Like they're not pushing anything thematically deep. There's no crazy futuristic tie-in. This just felt like a very cutthroat episode. They wanted this season to be 5 episodes, so they just threw in a very reserved, very I don't want to say non-intriguing, but they just threw an episode in there just to get to the number 5 on the season, and this is that episode for me. But maybe it's just a problem for me, but like it doesn't feel like a Black Mirror episode. It really didn't, and I don't know if you agree with that, Tyler, but that's how I came away from Maisie Day, where it just felt very. Black Mirror wasn't stretching anything making this episode. They weren't pushing the boundaries of anything the way they typically do in like a Be Right Back or a San Junipero. It just felt very bland and uninspired, I'll say.
Yeah, so this episode's basically kind of like a take on the movie Nightcrawler, but instead of for news, it's just paparazzi in general. It's like a Nightcrawler for paparazzi with a kind of a fantasy twist. And Twilight fans, like Riley's a big Twilight fan in terms of it being like a guilty pleasure. There's so many Twilight references, like the Muse song Needle Drop is right from Twilight 1. Obviously a lot of stuff that happened, even the setting, like in the woods, and it reminded me a lot of like the redwoods in Washington. There's just so much in this that's just oozing with Twilight influence. But yeah, the thing is, like, I thought it was a middle of the road episode, like you for a 2.5 star, but I gave it a 3 star barely, just because that final shot was so dark and grim. And I was like, holy shit. Like, cause the whole time you're kind of thinking basically that the person's learning, that they're kind of changing, that they're kind of becoming different. And then the final shot just kind of throws a wrench in that plan. And it was just so dark, but the episode itself was aggressively average. Like, I thought all the episodes in the season looked really good. I thought this one looked the worst. Like, because of what happens with the fantasy elements, like it's clearly they don't have the budget to be able to make that happen in a good looking way. But yeah, it was a cool analysis on paparazzi culture. Wasn't anything terrible. This is the worst episode of the season, or no, technically the next one is, but I know that's a hot take for me. But this season in general, I didn't think really had any bad episodes. So that's why I genuinely, truly believe this is one of the best seasons of Black Mirror we ever had. Because season 2, we had Waldo moment, awful. Season 3, we had like Metalhead and other stuff that weren't great. Season 4, we had season 5, we had the Miley Cyrus one. Like every season has one that's kind of just like a dog shit episode. Didn't really think any of them were dog shit in this season. So it was just a very good season. None of them are amazing, but as a collective season, it's just very good. But this is my second lowest. The next one, the last one we're going to talk about, is my lowest. But again, that one is a really high average letterbox, so it's just, that's my take, not everyone's.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think, if anything, I think Maisie Day was the only miss of the season, but also I wouldn't call it 2.5 out of 5 a miss. Like, I have Black Mirror episodes rated 1 or 1.5, so Black Mirror has definitely missed harder than Maisie Day. So I can kind of agree with you. Overall consistency, I think season 6 definitely delivered. My biggest problem with season 6 is that there's just nothing that's going to resonate with me. There's nothing that's stuck with me the way like Be Right Back, White Christmas, San Junipero, Black Museum have stuck with me. Those have, I've not stopped thinking about those episodes since I watched them. Like, I've already forgotten about season 6 of Black Mirror, not in a bad way, but it's just not sticking with me the way I would have liked it to, which is why I still don't know if I would hold it above seasons 1, 2, 3, or 4, even though those seasons do have dog shit episodes. They also have, in my humble opinion, some of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. But we'll move on to the final episode, Demon 79. This was a pretty, and I don't know, obviously I think you just said that this is your lowest rate of the season. This is my second lowest of the season, but I still went with a 3.5 out of 5 because this one felt like a risk. This one felt like Black Mirror was trying to go somewhere maybe they never have. It was a...
Can I just say something quickly?
Yeah.
You know the Maisie Day you just spoke about?
Yeah.
That's officially the lowest rated Black Mirror episode on Letterboxd.
I mean, I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
I know, that's like a 2.3.
Yeah, it's very low.
That's like crazy low. Jeez.
I think it's the worst.
Like that.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's the worst Black Mirror episode by any means. I think Waldo Moment's worse. Miley Cyrus is worse. Striking Vipers is worse. I definitely
they were terrible.
Yeah, those were not that good. But Demon 79, we'll wrap up our Black Mirror talk with this final episode. I don't even know how to describe this. It was a horror, comedy, slasher, thriller, science fiction fucking thing. But this one just felt like they swung for the fences. They took a risk that I was going to say that I've never seen Black Mirror take, but Black Mirror is literally known for taking risks with episodes. But this felt like the biggest risk take of this season, and I think it worked. I really enjoyed all the horror elements. I think a lot of this episode, it's more of just like a respect thing. Like, I can respect Black Mirror kind of changing around their vibe for this episode, and between this and Lock Henry, I think they're going for something a little different that they necessarily haven't gone for in the past, and that's maybe giving us more reserved narratives and things that I don't want to say we can relate to more, but things that maybe we are more inclined to watch nowadays, and that's slashers, horror movies, comedies, true crime documentaries, or shit like that. Tyler, this is your lowest rate of the season, so I'm pretty interested to see what you have to say.
Yeah, and this could have been the consequence of just Riley and I. We watched all 5 back to back, and just binged it one night. And this one stylistically was a huge breath of fresh air. Like you said, it's kind of a different territory than Black Mirror's ever gone in. But it was just a boring slog for us. Like, I just never was engaged in this. So basically, she has to. The whole thing that sets into motion is that she basically gets kind of cursed-ish, where it's like basically she has to, the apocalypse is going to happen if she doesn't kill 3 people, and that's the whole plot of this episode. And stylistically was an awesome episode, very unique. I just found it quite boring, and the comedy just didn't quite hit for me. And again, like, Beyond the Sea is kind of the consensus, like, best, quote-unquote best episode of the season in terms of people loving it the most, but Demon 79 by far is the biggest cult following. Like, people were telling me, like, on Reddit, like, apparently, like, Reddit's obsessed with this episode, and a lot of people love it. It has a high Letterboxd average. Like, people are loving Demon 79. So I can see why people would, because it is so stylistically different. And this season in general was very good at just blending a lot of different styles. Like, because even Maisie Day, like we talked about, was quite stylistically different than Black Mirror's ever done. So for me, it was just quite boring, and I just didn't care for it from the story perspective. But from a filmmaking perspective, there was a lot to appreciate here. So yeah, it's not like I don't have any ill will towards it. I just give it a 2-star because I just couldn't find myself engaged in the plot, and it didn't suck me in. Like, even Maisie Day was able to get me intrigued into where it was going. And that kind of does come as a consequence too of this being like a 74 minutes. So it's almost more of a movie length as opposed to an episode length, Whereas like, Maisie Day was like a 42-minute episode or something. So I think this one was just stretched a little too long for me and my taste, whereas Beyond the Sea was longer than this, but I thought the tension was building sufficiently enough to keep me engaged. But yeah, I can totally see why people love this one. It's not for me. I think Seth will like this one. I'm going to be interested to see where you land on it. But yeah, I just found it a little too boring for my taste.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And it's definitely kind of been all over the place. If you look at the letterbox graph, it's like very right there between like a 2 and a 4.5. People love it. People hate it. But I go with a 3.5, kind of like a little bit right down the middle, mainly because I could just respect Black Mirror for kind of taking a risk. But we'll wrap up our Black Mirror thoughts there. That'll end our review portion of the episode, which has been running for like 2.5 hours now or something. But if you guys are liking this episode, obviously it's going to be one of our longer episodes of the year. I can't imagine there's another week this year where we have this many new releases that a lot of us have watched. Just don't forget to give us a follow, give us a subscribe on YouTube, rate us on Apple, rate us on Spotify. We grind, we watch all these movies, we review all these movies because of your support. So anything you guys do to help us out, obviously that means the world to us.
Also, specifically, if you have not yet already checked out the ReelTokPodcast.com store, the Barbenheimer shirt kind of goes crazy. It's absolutely a devious fit, as well as the Leap of Faith shirt, sweatshirt, whatever. Those two are my personal favorite. They're pretty awesome. So get the Barbenheimer before July 21st.
Yeah, on July 21st, I better see a lot of Twitter pics out there with you guys wearing your Barbenheimer shirts before the theater. We're gonna skip over trailers because there's nothing that really dropped that I think.
Damn it! During all your talk.
Is that what you were doing?
Yeah. Damn it!
I'm so sorry.
I didn't watch them before. Elio looks fine. Chicken Run. Go Chicken Run.
Completely
Go
agree.
Chicken Run. I agree.
Yeah,
Elio
looks fine. Go Chicken Run. Sure.
Yes. Hey, it's trailer time. I've been gone.
Thanks. We're also going to power through news. The biggest news of the bunch is TUDUM, so we'll get to that in a bit. But we have a bunch of major delays, and I think that's the most important stuff today. Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars have been delayed to May 2026 and May 2027, respectively. Fantastic Four delayed to May 2nd, 2025. Thunderbolts delayed to December 20th, 2024. Captain America Brave New World delayed to August 26th, 2024. Avatar 1, Avatar 3, 4, and 5 delayed to 2025, 2029, and 2031, respectively. So I will be 34 when the final Avatar. Ridiculous.
Absurd.
At this point, just don't make these movies.
Damn, it's kind of crazy that the Real Talk podcast will be the biggest movie TV podcast in history in May 2020 or 2031.
2031. Yeah, absolutely absurd. And Blade naturally has been delayed to February 14, 2025. So that'll be a lovely Valentine's Day movie.
I think that one is put on its own because this movie is not going to happen.
It's not me. It's not beating.
I want Blade so bad, but like the production, like just behind it, is awful. Apparently,
and it's such horse shit.
Who got cast in it? Mia Goth got cast in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like the only news that's been like something's happening.
Yeah,
like every other bit of news is
ridiculous.
Mahershala Ali hates the script. Director's gone. Delayed. Everyone's pissed off on set. Delayed. Just not gonna happen. Fake movie. Oh no, I'm losing my Celsius.
It will never happen. And then the final bit of decently big news: Netflix's TUDUM happened yesterday, which I did not even know about. We joked about it in our group chat. I feel like we talked about TUDUM, like one of our first Real Talk episodes.
Right now.
Is it happening right now?
Yeah, I think we're about to get a Rebel Moon trailer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
we just got the Rebel Moon poster. So
we got the Rebel Moon teaser yesterday.
Did we?
Which it was like the behind the scenes Rebel Moon teaser. I don't know if in the
behind the scenes. Yeah. I think we're getting a trailer sometime this week, if not today. But maybe not. I don't know. It's 6 months away, so maybe not.
Yeah, but TUDUM, I don't think anything massive dropped. The biggest things, Extraction 3 is in the works. We obviously discussed that already. Squid Game Season 2, we got a teaser trailer. we don't have to go into depth on any of these news. I don't think we needed a season 2, but obviously the success of season 1, they're going to make a season 2.
They're also doing an American version, and they're doing
the
Squid
reality
Games,
show.
The reality show, which I did apply for, got denied. Kind of bullshit. I would totally do a Squid Games reality show. Are you kidding me?
The numbers that would do for our podcast.
Also,
if you were on that show.
Oh my god! Also, just to bring it up because we're on the subject, Mr. Beast's Squid Game 100% gonna be better than the reality TV show, and it came out like 3 months after Squid Games was popular. This is nothing anymore. There's no way it's popular.
I just want to say one thing about Squid Game is like, there's so many spin-offs of it now, like the American version and the real live action version and stuff. And like, I feel like it's one of those that are similar to Stranger Things in terms of the online community become a little insufferable about Squid Game. But I genuinely really liked that show. In the first season, I really, really liked it. So I'm not going to let
awesome, except the ending, except the like very last bit of it where it like teased season 2.
Right. And we don't need to go into that, but like, I'm just saying,
I thought you were just talking about it. Go,
no, I really like the show.
No, yeah, I just want to say, like, I feel like it's been co-opted now because there's so much happening in the Squid Game universe that like people are starting to say like, oh, it's like overrated and stuff. Where I genuinely really like season 1, and I'm excited to see season 2. But yeah,
what's the main actor's name? Lee? Is it like Lee Jung Jae? That's
Lee Jung Jae.
Is that what his name is? It's good that like these are things that like get people into Hollywood, right? Like obviously. Maybe that's not the end goal for every actor, but I feel like Hollywood's kind of like the end goal. This dude's now in The Acolyte, which is a new Star Wars show. You know, hate franchises all you want. That's where you get your money. So it's awesome that show can just like get people in because it's so popular. Move on at that point. You know, it was a great 1 season of television. I don't think it needs a second. It also certainly doesn't need an American version, especially because if you're too like weird to watch subtitles, there's a dubbed version. You can do either. Like it's just I don't understand that, but I am very happy with season 1.
But we knew after the success of the first one and the amount people memed the first one, there was going to be a season 2, and they were going to milk the fuck out of this. Moving on with TUDUM, Outer Banks season 4 teaser. Not much of a teaser, just a clip of our characters dancing. Blah blah blah. My favorite bit of news was coming out of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We got a teaser trailer, which again, all you saw was the symbols of the 4 nations. That's all you got. And then you got a first image of our 4 main characters.
Yeah, I got a couple pictures.
Yeah, we got a couple pictures. I like the pictures. I didn't like the look of Zuko, but I like the look of Sokka, Katara, and Aang. Zuko was the one that just felt, I don't know. He when you start Avatar, he is a menacing presence. He is the villain, and he just looked a little Halloween costumey for me.
The problem is you can animate a kid to look cooler than they are. I don't know if you can live action a kid to look cooler than he is. You know,
fair.
Like do you see what I'm saying? Like kids are kind of. You can animate them, and you're like, okay, this is like a person who's 14, whatever. But if you cast a 14-year-old, you're like, holy shit, 14-year-olds are small.
they're not intimidating.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that was my only gripe with it. But I've been preaching this live action universe that they're making for a long time. I'm pretty excited.
There's already a live action universe, George.
Relax. We don't talk about that. And then the final bit from TUDUM, we just talked about it, was the behind the scenes from Rebel Moon. I think I'm the only one excited for it on this podcast. Maybe Cam is.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think Zack Snyder. I'm just not like a huge like DCEU guy, but I'm excited for this.
That's fair. But yeah, I'm excited. Brand new IP, obviously a proposed Star Wars story that got rejected. So I'm excited to see what Zack Snyder had in mind for that. And then last bit of news. Sorry, we're plowing through the news. Our reviews obviously took up a majority of this. What?
Just keep going. I'll see if you mention it.
I was going to say, last bit of news, Andy Muschietti is confirmed to be directing Batman Brave and the Bold, which has been rumored over the last couple of weeks, but it has officially been confirmed, which I think is great. I think it's fine. Someone that knows these characters, someone who has a good working relationship with James Gunn. I think this is a fine choice.
Just on TUDUM, the live action One Piece got a trailer as well.
Oh, so yes. Sorry.
That's pretty big for a lot of anime fans. I have never seen
One Piece.
One Piece. Yeah, One Piece is massive. Will they do it justice? Probably not, but I did see a lot of positive opinions on the trailer. It's just a teaser trailer, a bit more than Avatar, but I did see some positive opinions on it online. So hopefully it's good. We'll see.
That was one of the bigger releases. My fault for excluding it. But that wraps up news. I know we flew through that, but again, we had 6 reviews to do, including an entire season of television. So that took up like 2 hours. So let's quickly fly through what we've been watching this week, even though we kind of touched on it with all of our new releases. When did last week start? I'll go first. Fuck it. Why not? Bad hosting, but I have it open in front of me. I watched Overlord. Dope movie. Gory, gruesome, starring Wyatt Russell.
I know. I've been meaning to watch that, actually. I need to watch that.
Very good. I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was a super effective horror movie that kind of weaved its way into a war story very, very well. I watched Sunshine. Yeah. Danny Boyle's Sunshine.
Danny Boyle.
That quickly became one of my favorites ever. I put it in my Letterboxd list of my favorite movies ever. I fucking loved this thing.
I've never seen it.
Please watch it.
I really like Danny Boyle as well, so I should watch it.
It was so goddamn good. It was just so ambitious. It was a place I've just very rarely seen science fiction be taken. And it wasn't just a massive scale science fiction film. There was so much layered themes of morality and conflict and internal struggle. The score, I've been listening to it on repeat for the last week. But it so quickly became one of my favorite films ever. And then I watched all the new releases, and then I watched Pitch Black, the Chronicles of Riddick, the first one. It was fun. Whatever. Seth, what have you been watching?
Not much this week, because obviously I've been really busy. I finally finished the MCU.
Hell yeah.
Remind me to I'm never doing an MCU ranking on TikTok again. The comments were horrible to me.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, dude, it's any big IP, you're screwed.
They were
no matter what. Dude, I have Far From Home in my top 10. You can't win.
Yeah, it was Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness were my last 2. Thought Multiverse of Madness was okay.
Oh, I thought you meant
I didn't do it in order.
I was like,
last season.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, last
Seth, don't forget you have to watch all the TV shows. We lost.
Is Seth gone or am I gone?
No, okay, Seth is gone. Seth is gone. Great. All right. Cam, do you want to tell us what you've been talking about? What you've been watching this week?
Yeah, because I'm going to go over 2 weeks. Because
shows, man.
Seth, we lost
great
you,
podcasting. Great podcast.
I'm sorry to the podcast listeners. My internet is being so bad today. Apologies. Anyway, yeah, Multiverse of Madness and Shang-Chi, both okay. Shang-Chi better. Yeah, Shang-Chi was good. Best action in the MCU with Winter Soldier, maybe. That's probably what I would say anyway.
Yeah.
And then I also watched The Post, which was a Spielberg film I haven't watched, which was perfectly fine.
Yeah, super bland.
Yeah, that's about it. Not much this week.
Cam, what you watching?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen me like leaning over. It's because I'm checking our monitor. So just like backstory, this time I was blacked out 2 weeks ago. This time Emma is struggling on Father's Day, nonetheless. SMH, but so it's 12:30 in the afternoon. She hasn't gotten out of bed except to go to the bathroom. I don't think she's yacked officially, but she thought about it. But yeah, hasn't got out of bed. 12:30. Bailey's asleep right now, but it seems he woke up. So we'll see if I have to go get him.
Is your flight today, or like when do you guys leave?
No, so we're staying until Thursday.
Oh,
but
okay.
Doing a lot of family stuff.
Yeah, flying hungover like that would be the worst thing.
Would be terrible. Yeah. So last 2 weeks I've caught up on a couple 2023 releases. Watched Knock at the Cabin, enjoyed it. Watched Shooting Stars, enjoyed it.
What did you give Knock at the Cabin?
Knock at the Cabin, 71 out of 100, 3.5 out of 5. Shooting Stars is the LeBron James story, a story I knew fairly well, but I did enjoy it. 64 out of 100, a 3 out of 5. Then I watched X-Men Days of Future Past because I was like thinking about that movie, and I'm like, that's like such a good movie. It's so damn good. It's still great. Real bummer that Apocalypse comes out after it. Days of Future Past is awesome though. 91 out of 100. Obviously Transformers, we talked about last week. White Men Can't Jump. Caught up on that. 59 out of 100. 3 out of 5 stars. Whatever. I enjoyed it enough. Awesome movie watch long. Was that Monday, Tyler?
Yep.
Monday.
Yeah, that one awesome.
Blind
What did you guys
Spotting.
even watch for that?
We watched Blind Spotting with Daveed Diggs. Was incredible. It was like it's a very impactful, very emotional movie. I forget who the other guy is. I don't know. Great movie. Go watch it if you haven't. I'm sure Tyler will also say it's very good. Renfield I watched. I didn't hate it, but I didn't give a shit about anything going on. And also Aquafina, like not that bad. I feel like she could have been so much worse.
No.
For like what you get with Aquafina, she was pretty tame, I feel like.
No, I hated it.
Really? Okay.
Me and Seth are kindred
Tyler,
souls on
on
this. Yeah. I got you, buddy.
You may have like
not buddy.
You also
Didn't
I
mean to
know
throw
you
that at
mentioned it. You mentioned it many times. So I feel like maybe I went into it and expected a lot worse. Like she could have been doing like the scuttlebutt the entire movie. That's kind of what I expected. I watched A Beautiful Mind this week because I have basically like what Tyler has behind him, a poster, and I've had it for 3 years, and I got through like 90 movies and just left 10. Never watched them for some reason. So Beautiful Mind is on there. I watched it. I really enjoyed it actually. I think it struggles to get going, but I enjoyed it. The Flash we talked about. I have a ton more to say on that, but I missed my opportunity, so that's fine. Extraction 2 we talked about. I watched Extraction again, and also Only the Brave, which I really enjoyed, and that is our ReelTok. Real quick review of the week. We'll see if I'm able to join.
You watched a lot this week, Carmi.
No, so that's last 2 weeks, so still probably not as much as Tyler, but I did want to mention what I've been watching.
Tyler, what'd you watch?
Oh, as well as I never got to mention Prehistoric Planet debuted on Apple TV Plus like 3 weeks ago at this point. Awesome, as always. Prehistoric Planet is great. So
it is great.
I'm 4 movies deep into the Mission Impossible franchise. I've liked them all. With those movies, I'm just at the point where I just need to stop Googling, like, because Mission Impossible 2 basically starts with him climbing, like free climbing a massive cliffside in Australia. And I Google, I'm like, oh, did he actually do that or is that fake? He actually did it. And then now we're at the point where he's like climbing the Burj Khalifa. I'm like, why am I
was Googling that.
Why am I even Googling this? Like, he did everything he's doing in these movies. So I'm just going to stop with the Google. I'm just assume he did everything because he probably did. I've liked them all. I think the first 4, all of them have had a villain problem, but everyone's kind of been saying in my Letterboxd reviews that like the latest ones are where it really starts to get going with good villains. I know a lot of people love Henry Cavill, especially in like the 6th one or something. So excited to see those. I've liked them all, like I've said. Watched, been still crushing some Love, Death, and Robots. I watched Wild Strawberries, Seth. Did you see, was it Seth or
really?
George? One has seen that. But yeah, Wild Strawberries, very good movie.
Yeah.
Definitely need to rewatch to fully appreciate it, but I gave it a 4-star.
It's not my favorite Bergman. I give it a 4.
Yeah, okay.
It's great.
Blind Spotting, like Cam said, is just so incredible. I saw it for the first time in college when it was in theaters, and we rewatched it. It's written by Daveed Diggs and the other guy who's the lead actor. Sorry to just keep throwing shade at you and not saying your name, but Daveed Diggs is a household name, so I'm sorry. His name is Rafael Casal, but they both wrote it together. It's kind of like their version of Good Will Hunting-ish in terms of this is kind of their first foray into Hollywood. This is the first real project after Hamilton for Daveed Diggs. So they wrote it together, starred in it, and it was great. Watched Psycho 2. I'm starting to work through all the Psycho movies, and it was actually quite a good sequel. Like, I really enjoyed it. They kept it fresh, and it was a very warranted sequel that's way different than the original, and like so it just felt fresh. It was like what you should do in a legacy sequel that comes out 20 years later. Finally finished the M. Night Shyamalan superhero trilogy with Glass, and definitely liked it the least out of the 3 between Split, Unbreakable, and now Glass.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What did you rate it? I give it like a 3.5.
I gave it a 3-star. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
It was basically almost like a Split 2 more than like a Glass movie. Like it was a lot more about.
It's a proper mess. It's very much a mess.
It's just like
most M. Night movies are.
That's wrong.
Yeah, so like the thing is, like he wanted to do his own like little like comic book trilogy type thing, and I get it because he's not a comic book movie director in terms of he doesn't want this to be his whole career, but definitely the world he built would have benefited from being fleshed out in a couple more movies or something. Because Glass, they just pack in so much in that movie. Let's see. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Everyone obviously was pissed off that I rated it a 4-star, but as I clearly said in my Letterboxd review, like I appreciate everything about the movie. I just don't love fans. Like, I don't know. I just don't love the movie.
4 stars high.
I know everyone's so pissed in my Letterboxd review, but I literally just said like, it's not just this movie. It's just all adventure kind of movies like that. It's just not really my thing. So I give it a 4-star.
It's wild how you have to justify a 4 on
yeah,
that.
it sucks, dude. Like everyone was so pissed for that review, and then went right from watching that to American Psycho. First time rewatching that in a long time. Just so good. Just Christian Bale. I forgot just how freaking insane he looks in that movie. But the dialogue is just so good in that. Let's see what else. And then pretty much all the other stuff I watched was the new releases. And we have Only the Brave. So go ahead and watch that if for our real quick review coming out on Friday or something this week. So if you haven't seen it, watch Only the Brave. And then I watched Simulant, finish it up this morning, which came out this year, but you know it's a red flag to a movie when there's a cast with a lot of household names that no one's heard of, because it has Jordana Brewster, who plays Mia in the Fast and Furious franchise. It has Robbie Amell, who is in a bunch of TV shows, Simu Liu, Sam Worthington, like a bunch of actors that are like people know, especially Sam Worthington and Simu Liu. But it was just a mess. It was like the movie, it was the episode of Black Mirror, Be Right Back, George, like and Seth, where it's like about like kind of like losing someone and replacing them with a body double. And it's like, I feel like they watched that episode and they're like, oh, let's build this into a movie. And it just didn't really work out. But yeah, that's all for this week.
All right. Well, that takes us to the final part of our episode. We're approaching the 3-hour mark now. We have to.
2:30 right now.
I don't.
2:30. It's a long episode. So if you stuck with us till the end, to the very end of this episode, we are going to do our draft now. Like I said, I don't even know what the title is, draft. Movies that change your perspective on life, movies that make you think about.
That's the episode draft?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I thought I could like BS my way through if I had a couple of shit. All right, please hold. Or keep going. Just explain.
I don't even know how to explain. Just movies that give you a different outlook on life. Movies that make you question your purpose in this world, your future, shit like that. It's obviously going to be very up for interpretation, just depending on all of our previous experiences. Blah blah blah. So let's get right into it. The order of the draft is Tyler, Seth, George, and Cam.
Perfect.
It was randomized Tyler, Seth, George. So Cam, I just threw you at the end if you don't mind. I didn't know if you would. Okay. So Tyler, what is your 1-1 in your life movie draft?
Is this like, before we start, sorry, is this like life's purpose or like question reality? Because question reality.
No, not question reality. There's like your purpose in life, like movies that make you question why you're on this planet, your future, shit like that.
All right, Google, come on through for me.
Yeah, it's a tough one to Google because you're going to get a lot of the question reality type stuff as opposed to question your purpose.
Yeah.
But I would be a fraud. I would be a nobody if I didn't pick this as my 1-1. I would be letting down everyone in the army of About Time. So I got to go About Time as my first pick. It's my favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's deep. Helps you appreciate every single day of your life in a very creative way. Got to be my 1-1. I would be letting everyone down if it wasn't.
I figured that would be it was between that or something else. I thought you would go with your 1-1. Seth, what movies make you question your life?
Really hard to do, to be honest.
It's a tough one.
One of the first films I thought was It's a Wonderful Life. I'm going to go with that.
Okay. That's a solid first pick. My first pick, I don't know. There's so many directions you can go. I think I'm going to take in my 1-1 Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's on my list.
Can you guys hear the wind or am I all right?
You're good, man.
No.
Okay, cool. My first pick, and I was like terrified this was going to get picked, but apparently not. So maybe I'm just not thinking about this draft right. I'm going to go with After Sun. Is that a good pick?
I think
that's a good pick.
Okay.
I think anything's a good pick, realistically.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
All right, then I'm going to go with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Shut the fuck up. Stop.
No, my next pick will be
taught you to take leaps of faith in life.
Yeah, take leaps of faith in life. Yeah, but official veto. But I will go with The Truman Show.
Yeah,
that came up on Google, so
that's a great pick. That was definitely. I would have taken that next, most likely, honestly. My next pick.
I'm feeling good.
just one of my all-time favorite coming-of-age stories. A movie that just makes you literally question where you're going with your life, what the future holds, and that is Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird.
Yeah, good pull. I think all of mine will be like coming of age stories for the most part.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best way to go, maybe.
Mhm.
Seth?
Not that I'm
Nothing.
Losing you again, Seth.
This guy.
I guess we'll pause for a brief moment.
Yeah.
Emma is alive.
All right.
I'm eating Cheez-Its right now.
Nice.
That's great. I'm really jealous of the two cheeses, honestly.
Well, we lost Seth. He's probably going to rejoin.
We lost Seth.
What do we think he was going to pick? Actually, I don't want to spoil any other people's picks, so we won't even ponder.
I think I heard him say silence.
Oh.
Scorsese's silence.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's on the top of his mind lately since he just watched it.
Yeah.
Give it to him and he can't change it when he joins back.
Watch it be like Silence of the Lambs instead or something.
We should just veto whatever he says.
He says stall, but don't stall. Just give it to him and don't let him.
Yeah. He picked silence. Game over.
Okay, he's joining right now. I just admitted him back to the call, but yeah.
Get absolutely walloped.
Yeah. All right.
What's your guys' favorite like snack?
Snack? Goldfish.
Yeah, goldfish.
Or pretzels. Goldfish or pretzels.
Seth, you told us to stall,
All right,
and this is what we came up with. What's your pick?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What is it? My pick, yeah.
Yeah.
Or did you guys like skip me?
No, it's still your pick.
We gave you silence.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I was going to say
Okay.
I'm not from a religious background, but I think it poses some really interesting questions on life, and that is Scorsese's silence.
Okay. I knew I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silence.
Yeah. I was worried it might have been Silence of the Lambs, so good thing it was. We got it good.
That would have been fucking crazy.
Okay. I'll go with
Tyler.
I'll just run down my next two picks. Well, actually, I have quite a few on here that are really high 5 out of 5 stars for me. But Boyhood is just a coming of age story that really speaks to me. Richard Linklater, the goat of coming of age stories, and this one just really, really hits me and hit me at the right time in life too. And then the other one I'll go with is I've drafted 2 10 out of 10s for me so far. Let's go with another one, which is La La Land, because me specifically, like, you guys know, I keep myself insanely busy. So I find myself questioning a lot, like, am I wasting too much time, like, focused on like tasks and being productive and all that, and like not appreciating am I giving up something else in life? So, it's La La Land always puts me into good perspective of like, am I really focusing my attention and time on something where I want to be, or do I want to end it like me and Sebastian? We're not necessarily about a relationship, but just about life, where you kind of look and be like, I achieved what I wanted in life, but kind of was it worth it? So those are my picks, and all 3 of my picks so far have been 10 out of 10s for me.
I like that pick. I'm happy. I thought you were going to pick one thing, but I'm happy you did it because I think I'm going to take it next, but we'll get to that soon. Seth, third pick.
Dead Poet Society.
Quick with it. A good movie. My third
like
pick,
an hour and a half.
Tyler, where I thought you may have been going. I'm going to take Bo Burnham's Inside.
Yeah, I wanted that one next, and that's also 10 out of 10 for me. But perfect pick.
When you said another 10 out of 10, I really thought that's where you were going. So I'm happy. But yeah, Bo Burnham's Inside. I don't know, that just every single song hits so just relative to reality, and I know what's been going on over the last couple of years, and every so often you could pull some personal, things from what he's writing. So I love Bo Burnham's Inside. It's one of my favorite projects of this current decade, maybe top 5 right now.
It's great.
Cam, best.
So this probably should have been my first choice, but I was scrambling, so I'm glad it came back to me. Apparently Tyler's never seen it, which is foolish, but I'm going to go with Soul. One of the best Pixar movies.
Foolish.
Yeah, foolish. I learned that on Monday during the watch along that Tyler's never seen it.
That is crazy, actually.
And then next one, a coming of age movie that I absolutely adore. I don't think people love it as much as me, but I think most people say it's good. Is The Edge of 17. I don't know. I didn't watch it like when I was 17 or anything, but I do think if I did, it would probably be like my favorite movie ever. But I think it's fantastic, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's such a under talked about coming of age movie with one of my favorite scenes with Woody Harrelson basically saying, "Sorry, my dead dad card expires after a year or so."
Yeah. There's so many in that movie. That's just fantastic.
My fourth pick, I kind of figured this one would get back to me. I don't know if you guys treat it as highly as I do, but I'm gonna go with Noah Baumbach's Frances Ha.
I thought you were going to say that.
That's just like the most in New York City, having no idea what you're doing with your life movie, and I feel like everyone between the age of 21 and 29 kind of relates to some aspect of this movie in one way or another. And I just think that's one of the most life-esque movies out there. And obviously I live in New York, so it's definitely hits close to home every so often.
Me?
Yes, sir.
I'll go with one of my favorite all-time films, and that is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Definitely must be picked for me. Definitely.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I like it.
My last two picks here. I'll go with a movie that always makes me want to go out, explore the world, experience new things, and that's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Love that movie so much. Ben Stiller directorial debut, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, love Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Final pick. I have a couple more I could choose from here, but I'm going to go with Chef, because that movie is all about kind of like all about kind of leaving your life behind, or like taking a risk and like stopping doing what's kind of putting food on the table necessarily, but you kind of hate your existence of doing it, and instead taking a risk and doing something you love. Maybe I'll actually take that jump one day, or maybe it'll just always be a movie I love and live vicariously through and be like, oh, that's awesome to quit your day job and do something you've always wanted to do. But yeah, Chef.
That's a great poll.
That's a good pick.
I forgot what the order is. Is it me again?
No, it's Seth. Seth's final pick.
Great.
My final pick is also going to be one of my favorite films, and that is Spirited Away.
We lost him, but we know what he was saying.
It's okay. We got it.
We got it. Yeah. Perfect. Great job, Seth.
Now it's it's me. I'm between a couple on my final, but I'm going to go with a little recency. A movie that just won Best Picture. I'm going to take Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Damn. Okay.
I don't know. Would you guys veto that pick? Because I feel like that pick just.
I don't think we're vetoing anything in this thing
other
than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I might start using Across the Spider-Verse now.
Cam's next draft: pick 1 Into, pick 2 Across,
pick 3 Beyond. Hasn't came out yet, but I'm sure. And then pick 4 can be like the Spider Within, that new short that they're coming up with. Sorry. I'm just gonna. Is it me? Right.
It is your final pick, my man.
Final pick, George. I'm glad I got this. I'm shocked you let it slide. I'm gonna go with 9 Days, 2021. Yeah. Really, just all about like
fantastic.
Just like what humanity and like all that. I do love it. Not as much as you, I don't think.
I honestly completely forgot about that movie. I'm a little upset I did. I would have taken that over Frances Ha and Everything Everywhere.
I kind of thought you did. But yeah, another one. Are we on to another one that I just saw as I was like scrolling my list would be Another Round.
Yeah.
That would be a really good one.
Good. Could have gotten 2 Wong-Kar or 3 Wong-Kar Wais, Fallen Angels, In the Mood for Love, and Chungking Express.
Haven't seen them, but I'm sure you could.
They're so damn good. But all right, Tyler, About Time, Boyhood, La La Land, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and Chef. Seth took It's a Wonderful Life, Silence, Dead Poet Society, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Spirited Away. Myself, George, took Good Will Hunting, Lady Bird, Bo Burnham's Inside, Frances Ha, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. And Cameron took After Sun, The Truman Show, Soul, Edge of 17, and 9 Days. That will wrap up what has to be our longest Real Talk episode to date. If you stuck around for the full almost 3 hours, we fucking appreciate you. We love you for grinding it out with us while we talk all of these movie reviews, all the news, TUDUM, our draft. Shout out to all of our patrons, particularly our executive producers, Al Bodie, Alexander Kephart, Mac Wells, Remy Walker, Stephen Johnson, Seven Mod Jeffy, AJ Quigley, Alexander Biscardi, Ben Legge, Ben Hansey, Brody Young, Callum Singh, Cody Whitney, Dakota Buckner, Dean Kutamanidis, Dylan Chip, Ferdinando Ford, Jimmy O'Connor, Jordan Gagg, Josh Hines, Luke Deerhog, Marcellus, Nick Shirley, Relapse, Rocco1, Sean Morales, Tad and Bougie, Trey RZ, Will Kim, Eunice BBX, and Zach Graves. That wraps up episode 41 of the ReelTok Podcast. Thank you all for joining, and thank you all for your support.